Okay, should be live. That should be us now. So I'll just get everything set up, pour myself a drink, then we can get started. How's it going, guys? Merry Christmas. What's happening? So, got a few people in already. I planned for the stream to start at 8 o'clock, but I finished what I was doing a little bit early, so let's get started. 50,000-year-old ancient alien mummy, aka Luis Ortiz. Fury's legendary resume took some significant damage last night. Yeah, I suppose it did. Not that it really matters. Doesn't really make a difference in the grand scheme of things, does it? You know, he's still undefeated. Shout out to Mateus Lies. Good to see you here, bro. God bless you, man, every time. You think Joshua had had to wear a thong? A dance for his excellency. What do you mean? I don't get it. Shout out to Reese. Good to see you again, man. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Yeah, same to you, my friend in Christ. Same to you, bro. God bless you. Yeah, I think some of these comments were from earlier on. Because again, I scheduled this one a lot earlier than I usually schedule them. Because usually when I do these lives, I don't really plan them. But for this one, I'd planned it for a while. I was always going to do one on Christmas Eve, you know. So yeah, according to StreamYard, we've got 5 people watching. And hopefully we don't get a repeat of my previous stream. Because as some of you guys know, my internet seems to work perfectly. I never have any problems with it until I try to run StreamYard. Then all of a sudden I start having problems. It's a pain in the arse, man. Yep, celebrating the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Absolutely, bro. That's what it's all about. It's not about presents. It's not about any of that superficial crap. It's about Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And whether or not he was really born on this particular date doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is, that's when we celebrate it, you know? Shout out to the Triple B, man. God bless you. Every time, bro. Everybody go subscribe to Triple B. Everybody. God bless you every time, man. Shout out to Boxing Fan. AJ in Fury's head after he bashed up his third best win easy while Fury went life and death. Yeah. To be perfectly honest, it doesn't really matter though, does it? Because again, it's as many people have said, you're only as good as your last fight. And yeah, AJ might have looked good against Otto Wallin. But let's be honest, I mean, Otto Wallin, when he fought Tyson Fury, was probably a lot better prepared, if you know what I mean. You know, that was probably his big moment and his big night, his big performance, where he put it all on the line. Whereas against AJ, I don't know, man. I always got the sense that he was taking the fight for the money and he kind of knew his role. What do you think of Caballel? I was impressed. Yeah, I mean, Caballel, we've always known he's a pretty good boxer. He's good technically. And he's a guy who, when he does get a genuine fight of consequence, he looks very, very good. But the problem with Caballel is he's just been way too inactive. And he's kind of wasted his prime years. I think a lot of people are going to be very high on him after beating Arslanbek Makhmudov. But you guys that have been following me for a long time will know I never thought much of Makhmudov. I never saw him as anything more than just a big, stiff fighter with power, you know? I never really saw him as a serious contender or anything like that. Wilder is a fraud. Oh yeah, your Wilder is a fraud videos aged well. LDBC making excuses. Of course they are. That's all these people ever do is make excuses because it's all they've got. Because and I talked about this at the time. I've been saying this for years. They put all their eggs in one basket in regards to Deontay Wilder. You know, that they decided to place all their hopes and dreams in this one guy and basically live vicariously through him. And as a result of that, he let them all down. It's to be expected, you know. Yep, God bless, apology, man, and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, man. We'll sing some Christmas songs tonight. How about that? That'll be fun. I think the problem is Wallin is Swedish. Or Wallin's Swedish naivety led him to believe he could beat a PED behemoth clean, or probably believes Gay J is clean because he hasn't failed a test. Yeah. I mean, maybe he was just taking the knee for BLM. Maybe that's all it was, you know? I mean, he seems the type, doesn't he? You've seen his taste in women. It wouldn't surprise me one bit, you know? Yep, lol at Wilder. Let's make this a Deontay Wilder hate stream. Why not? I know you guys love that. I mean, I don't see why not. Oh yeah, guys, let me know if the audio is good on this. Let me check for a moment. Again, I always want to make sure that my it seems to be good. I always want to make sure that my flipping microphone is picking me up properly because the connection on it's a little bit dodgy. I'd put it on camera, but I'd have to disconnect it so I could show you guys like what the connection looks like. Your Dubois prediction was mostly correct. Well done. Yeah, I thought that one was pretty straightforward. At the end of the day, and I wasn't the only person to point this out, Jarrell Miller's never fought a puncher before. He's never fought anybody in his career who was even remotely a big puncher. I mean, most of the guys he's fought were just shot fringe contenders, cruiserweights, guys like Thomas Adamek, who were in their 40s and were never known for their power at heavyweight. You know, guys like Marius Vac, who was a complete punching bag. You know, same with Johan Duhaupas, guys like, you know, guys that were never really punchers and guys who had already had multiple stoppage defeats. And just by being so much bigger and so much more durable than these guys, Jarrell Miller was just able to walk them down. It didn't impress me at all. Daniel Dubois was the first guy he fought who was big, who had power, who was in shape, in his prime, and who had a bit of political backing, you know? So I wasn't at all impressed with Jarrell Miller at any stage of his career. And I thought it was pretty obvious Dubois was going to put a beating on him and most likely stop him, you know? So it went exactly how I thought it would go. What does LDBC stand for? Lazy, dumb, biased cunts. That's what that stands for. God bless and Merry Christmas. Yeah, same to you, man. I wish for all the best, Nordic Triple E boxing. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Same to you, Pierce. God bless you, man. God bless you. The Bum is still a quitter, and a mango picker from Granada. It's just that Miller gasped before he could make the Bum quit. Yeah. Maybe if it was a 12 rounder, Miller would have been able to take his time more. But I mean, Miller basically stopped throwing punches at the midpoint. And it was because, just like I said in the build up, if it gets to a point in the fight where Dubois is struggling with the pace and is starting to lose heart a bit and is starting to consider quitting, it's going to be a situation where Miller is going to have taken such a beating and he's going to have taken so many punches where he's not really going to be able to do anything. He's not really going to be able to put his foot on the gas and really put it on Dubois in the later rounds because Dubois will have landed so many punches that his confidence would be sky high and Miller would be able to, you know, he wouldn't really be able to get through it. It is what it is, man. Miller just, I've never understood the hype for Miller. It's like people who were talking about his chin and his size and his strength and all that stuff about him, his stamina and the stuff that made him so effective. What these people weren't talking about and what they seemingly weren't taking into consideration was the level of competition he was fighting. Who did he fight who was a puncher? Nobody. And if you haven't fought a puncher and you're a come forward fighter who relies on your chin and your gas tank to win fights, how are you going to win at world level when you start fighting punchers? It doesn't make sense, which is why I maintain to this day that Anthony Joshua would have knocked him out. I 100% believe that, and I've always believed that. I've never went back on that. I just don't get. I don't get why anybody. Sorry, I don't get why anybody would have looked at Jarrell Miller fighting someone like Thomas Adamek and then thought, yeah, this guy's going to be able to go in there against super heavyweights and he's going to be able to walk them down. Just never understood it. This don't show Dubois has heart. Miller barely did anything. All he had was a granite chin. Media nut huggers praised this. Yeah, but that's the thing. Did he really have a granite chin? Because yeah, he showed a good chin against non-punchers and guys who were smaller than him, but against a guy who was his size or thereabouts and hit significantly harder than him, didn't show a great chin, did he? Like, I mean, it wasn't like. I mean, if he'd fought someone like Vladimir Klitschko and fought the kind of punches that Mariusz Wach was able to take, that would be a statement on how good his chin is. But we never saw that, did we? At any stage of Jerome Miller's career. Yep, God bless you all, man. And yeah, join Triple B's live when he's on it. Even then, you saw signs of quitting Dubois. Yeah, Dubois will quit if he's in there with a world class fighter like Usyk. You know. Hmm. Absolutely. He's far too big, and it's just superfluous weight. It's dead weight basically. It's just I'm not saying you should be ripped and chiseled and not have any body fat at all. I'm not saying you generally need to be lean, especially if you're a heavyweight. But to have so much excess body fat to where you're just jiggling around in that ring, it's just going to slow you down. It's not gonna do you any good at all. Being that overweight. And we saw that with Andy Ruiz. Miller has a yeah, he does have a good chin, but I don't think it's as good as people think. Because, like I said, he's never fought a big puncher prior to Dubois. And yeah, he could be a problem for guys who are smaller than him and who can't punch. But against a guy who's his size or around about that, who can actually punch, I think Jerome Miller's useless. I think he gets stopped every time, or at least beaten up every time. Yeah, yeah, he's off the PEDs and on the pot noodles and the cheeseburgers. Yeah, he's not allowed his cheeseburgers. Yeah, cheeseburgers is a code word for HGH and EPO and probably other stuff. That being said, Miller show yeah, I'm enjoying this because it's a I don't smoke very often. It's a special occasion. How do you see Ngannou versus Dubois? I can see Ngannou catching Dubois around the fourth round. Dubois chin can't take much more damage. Um, well, look. What you guys need to understand is Francis Ngannou isn't a boxer. And look, that performance against Fury, don't read too much into it. Fury clearly didn't train for the fight. He clearly carried the guy. He clearly pulled his punches. And if that had been Tyson Fury at his best, in shape, um, going in there, throwing full-blooded punches, trying to take the guy out, Ngannou wouldn't have lasted long. Right? The guy doesn't have great stamina. His punching technique is pretty poor. And he's a guy who's more of a grappler than a boxer, let's be honest. So look, if truth be told, I don't think Ngannou has any chance against any top 20, top 30 heavyweight in a real fight. I really don't. And I think Dubois knocks him out in 3 rounds if it's a real fight. I'm not even kidding. Do not read too much into that Fury fight. Trust me, it's inconsequential. It means nothing. Joshua dancing in his thong for his excellency. I don't know. I didn't see that. I must have missed it. You're smoking a Shero Clint Eastwood style. Yeah, it's a Cuban, a big fat Cuban. See it? So it's called. I believe it's called a Guantanamera. They're bloody expensive, but I'm not a regular smoker. It's just an occasional thing because it's Christmas. I tend to have one on Christmas. I actually like the taste of them. Like, I don't smoke cigarettes. I hate cigarettes. I think they taste like shit. But a nice, like, expensive Cuban cigar, I think they taste nice. I don't mind them one bit. All right, where was I? Mm, I think you're being very generous there. I would say at least 80, 90 pounds of excess on him. I mean, the guy was what 100 pounds heavier than Dubois, something like that. At least I heard he was. So, I mean, man, that's far too heavy, far too heavy. And what is that weight really doing for him? I mean, if it's superfluous weight, if it's just excess fat, and there's that much of it that you can see it jiggling around on his back, it's just slowing him down. It's not giving him more stamina. It's not making him more durable. It's a lot of rubbish, man. Did Turkey Al Sheikh and Bake use Gay J as a porta potty after the fight? How would I know that? All right. I mean, is there any video evidence to back up those allegations? I don't know. I've not seen any. I would say AJ considerably. I think AJ hits considerably harder than Dubois, and I think he's a lot of it's probably to do with his technique. That's one of the things I've always rated about AJ is he has very very good punching technique. AJ turns over his punches beautifully, and don't get me wrong, he has a lot of flaws. Like technically, AJ does have flaws, but I think his punching technique is something I've never doubted. Daniel Dubois, on the other hand, yeah, his fundamentals are okay, but I don't think he's as accurate or as heavy-handed as AJ is. I think AJ hits a lot harder, and he's proven his power at a much higher level than Dubois has, both as an amateur and a pro. Plus, I think AJ is naturally a little bit bigger. Is that you? I thought it was that guy from The Matrix. What do you think of Parker squashing Wilder? I mean, yeah, we'll get to that. Don't worry, we'll get to that. Um, to give you a brief preview, look, at the end of the day, Joseph Parker did what you're supposed to do against an absolute bum who can't fight. He went in there, kept his hands up when he needed to, um, kept on the move at a side profile, stayed away from that right hand, and he didn't give Deontay Wilder free shots. He didn't give him a perfect opportunity to land a straight right hand down the middle that barely touches him, just skims him, and then went down like a sack of spuds. He didn't do it, did he? No, he actually came to win. So that's what happened. Time to retire the broken buck Wilder. Send him to his mass side. I don't know why I found that so funny. Dubois didn't need to show heart. He will quit again. Yeah, yeah. I've no doubt. He's quit twice. He gives me Victor Ortiz vibes. If you quit twice, you'll quit again. You know? Yeah. I've not listened to 7-8 Sports TV in years, so I've got no idea what he's saying. But I can imagine. I can imagine what he's saying. The guy's a bellend. He's just a fat, racist degenerate. So who cares what that fat cunt says? I mean, come on, man. You ever smoked the Nicaraguans? I enjoyed the Drew Estates, especially the coffee infused ones. Um, I have had Nicaraguan cigars before. I believe I had a AJ Fernandez, like a real expensive one. I think that's if I remember rightly, isn't that a Nicaraguan? I'm not sure, but it's usually Cubans I go for. You know, these ones I like these because they're really smooth. You know, again, I'm not like the biggest cigar aficionado. I'm not like a I don't know that much about them. It's just I have one on occasion. You know, I have them to celebrate special occasions like Christmas. You know, or my birthday or something. I'm not like a regular smoker or anything like that. I did used to smoke cigarettes occasionally, but I don't know. That was just a curiosity thing. I actually hate cigarettes. You know, I think they taste horrible. I don't know why. I've never understood why people smoke cigarettes. Like why you would smoke them every day. I don't get it. What was going through your head during Wilder Parker fight? I didn't watch it live, so I was actually playing Skyrim at the time, so there was nothing going through my head, believe it or not. You know, but yeah, I was playing Skyrim, and my missus was playing something else. We were chilling. We are looking after the dog too, so I didn't have time to watch the boxing. Mm. Yep, yep, absolutely, man. God bless you. Just it seemed like a foregone conclusion to me all along, you know, and I never doubted it for a second. Yeah, yeah, I definitely think AJ punches harder. I think he's more heavy-handed, and I think he's got better technique on his punches. You know, I just I've always thought that. You know. Oh yeah, Zhang's always beatable because the guy has very poor stamina. So if you can get through the early rounds and make him overexert himself a bit, you know, you can definitely take him down. You know, Hergovich was just too bloody lazy to do it. You know, watched the post-fight press with KJ this morning. He talks like he just saved humanity from Armageddon. How heavyweight division is dead. Manly Chan, Dum Dum Session, was fingering herself over KJ knocking out Wallen. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it, man. What's up, Nordic Warrior? Merry Christmas. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, do man. God bless you, bro. Joshua, the new Kang. Yep. Yeah, he's the new Kang. What was I gonna say? This is the wrong time to try and change Wilder's style. Mallet Scott got ideas above his station. He did well as a plodder. Well, yeah, he did well when everybody was laying down for him, you know. He did well when these guys were dropping their hands, going like that, and saying, "Please hit me on the chin with the right hand." Then it skims their nose, and they go, "Oh!" You know, he did well then. Oh, Kevin Kelly smokes boots. I don't know, man. Yep, absolutely, man. Of course, he wants to hear some news. Let's hear it. Yeah. Best Scottish, Welsh, and Irish boxing prospects. There are no boxing prospects whatsoever in Scotland, Wales, or Ireland. Not a single one. It's not even worth talking about it, you know. Nordic, what are your thoughts on Jai Opitaya? Can he go to heavyweight? He probably can, yeah, because he's quite big, isn't he? How tall is Jai Opitaya? He's like 6'4" or something, isn't he? I mean, he was a little bit taller than Briadis, if I remember rightly, and Briadis did well at heavyweight for that short stint he had there. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he had some success there. I mean, he probably wouldn't be as devastating, and I'm not sure he's quite as fluid or as mobile in the ring as Usyk. So, you know, Usyk at heavyweight, he kind of makes up for his lack of like one punch KO power by just being so much quicker and so much more agile than everybody else. I don't really think Jai Opitaya has those attributes, so maybe he won't be as good at heavyweight as Usyk. But I definitely think he'll have success. I definitely think he could beat some of the lower level guys. Easy, bro. Yeah, same to you. Yeah, Merry Christmas, man. God bless you. I've been switching fully to Nicaraguans because the quality control of Cubans have been letting me down the last year. Way too tight of a draw. even some of the Bolivias. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just tend to stick with my usual, you know. And again, because it's not because it's only an occasional thing. It's it's not really that big a deal to me, you know. But I see what you're saying. Wilder is awful. AJ would have stopped him in 4. On last night, he definitely would have, no doubt about it. Like the form Wilder was in last night, and the form AJ was in, I've no doubt AJ stopped him early, no doubt. And he may have even done it prime for prime, but we'll never know. We'll never know what would happen prime for prime. You know, that's the sad thing about it, and we'll never be able to prove either way. It's just all, you know, it's all speculation. You know. Shout out to Del Boy. God bless you, bro. Yeah, Caballero schooling Makhmudov was funny. It wasn't that big a shock to me, if truth be told. Never thought much of Makhmudov. And, you know, Caballero, whereas I didn't really rate him that highly either, a lot of that was mostly due to the fact that he'd just been so inactive, you know? Whereas Makhmudov had at least been fighting somewhat regularly. And I think that momentum and the fact he had so many highlight reel knockouts was kind of the thing that convinced a lot of people that Makhmudov was the better fighter of the two. But when you think about it, he'd never proven that he was the better fighter of the two. Because as a few of us pointed out, he'd fought nobody. The guy had done nothing in his career even worth talking about. So it didn't necessarily come as a surprise to me, personally. Oh, it's beautiful, man. Beautiful. Perfect for Christmas. Shout out to Smooth Critical. Good to see you here, bro. God bless you. Love Opitaya. Not sure he can go to heavyweight, though. Not sure he's big enough, and he doesn't have the skills of Usyk. Yeah, like I was saying, Usyk might not be the biggest puncher, but at least by heavyweight standards, or even by cruiserweight standards. But Usyk has all the attributes to make up for it, like speed, fluidity, technical skill. He's just on another level in those regards. Opitaya, as good as he is, he's not on that level, in my opinion. He's nowhere near as technically proficient as Usyk. He's nowhere near as mobile or as fast as Usyk. You know, so I don't think he'd have the same success at heavyweight, you know, not even close. Joshua and Wilder shouldn't have ducked each other in 2018, 2019 comical. Yeah, that fight should have happened years ago, man. There was absolutely no reason whatsoever for that fight not to have happened for Undisputed back in the day. But again, boxing being boxing, they wanted to let it marinate, you know, to the complete detriment of the sport, you know, and to both guys' careers. Yeah, Miller and Wilder are both completely overhyped. Pre-ban Juice Miller would have won. It's possible because he would have had more stamina. He would have probably been a bit more energetic. So maybe he would have won. Maybe you smoking a biff that? It's a Guantanamera. It's a Cuban. It's a big fat Cuban. I've managed to switch to all the vapors. I know onto the much healthier cigars. Do you smoke tobacco pipes also? No, I've never smoked a tobacco pipe. Never. The only thing I've ever smoked is cigarettes and Cuban cigars. That's it. And I've had, like I said, like one Nicaraguan, I think. Opinions of the Irish Conlon. Michael Conlon? Oh, he's on his way out, I think. I think he's on his way out. He's he looked terrible in his last fight and he got knocked out by a British level fighter. So yeah, he's done. Am I getting GTA 6? No. No, I'll never play it. To answer your question, I'm not interested in modern games. It's funded by BlackRock and it's being written by a company called Sweet Baby Inc. Anybody who's interested, look up Sweet Baby Inc. and who that company's funded by. They're the people that are writing GTA 6. So nope, I won't be buying it. I won't be giving them my money. No, Opetaya looks like 6'2", small frame, but not as much as in the gen of heavyweights, in the next gen of heavyweights. Who is there? Johnny Fisher, Jared Anderson. Yeah, it's kind of a stale division, isn't it? I mean, even guys like Hrgovic and Kabayel, as talented as they are, they barely ever fight and they barely ever take fights of consequence. So, oh man, it's just annoying. The heavyweight division is just so bland and boring. Best five heavyweights of the last 15 years. The last 15 years, I'd have to say the Klitschko's, Fury, Usyk, and I guess you'd have to say AJ. I guess. I mean, at least in recent years, he's got to be in the mix. Based Outlaw is uploading his experience with Gage, putting it on him, and he didn't hit him. Oh, he didn't hit on him. Is Mac is Makhmudov in your top five pound for pound ugly fighters? No, I don't think he's a bad looking guy. I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm not a homo, but I don't know. He seems like a good looking guy to me. I'd imagine so. The Fury legacy gets shittier by the day. I don't think it really matters. Again, I'm not one of these people who takes every single fight at face value and says, "Oh, because one guy looked better against another guy, that means that he's better," or it affects his legacy. I don't think it matters. Okay, because the Otto Wallin that Fury fought, I'm gonna go off on a whim and say that he was better that night than he was when he fought AJ. I definitely think that was a better performance from Wallin than the performance we saw against AJ. So I don't think it necessarily means like I don't think AJ performing better against Wallin necessarily means that he's better than Fury. Like I know that's not what you're saying, but again, I just don't think it really matters much. Like I don't think about legacy like that. You're only as good as your last fight, as they say. You lost money on Miller. Big mistake, man. Favorite fight last night? Hmm, probably the Dubois fight. I mean, the Dubois fight was at least an entertaining one, as inconsequential as it was. Wasn't boring like most of the rest of them. Most of them were just mismatches. Yeah, Opetaya he's probably too small, and he doesn't have Usyk's fluidity and skill. Do you want to see an Ellis Soro versus Opetaya rematch? Ref stopped it to it. Yeah, they got to have a trilogy, man. Yeah, Luis Ortiz rolled that cigar in 1932. Yeah, it was on his 16th birthday. That was his gift for his sweet 16th. Was this cigar? AJ last night would chop down Fury. Not so sure about that. Not so sure about that. I don't think so. I don't think AJ would beat Fury. I think Fury's all wrong for him, personally. Her and Joshua should have gone for Wilder instead of taking 3 rehab fights. Instead, they wanted to age him more inactivity, more wear. Then Parker comes in and ruins the mega fight. Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? It seems like they were bent on fighting Wilder, but yeah, Parker tore up the script. Parker ruined it for him. You never know. Maybe he'll get convicted of drug smuggling after all. Opetaya versus Prime Usyk at cruiserweight. I go with Usyk by a competitive but clear unanimous decision, kind of like the Gassiev fight. I think it's a similar kind of fight. Ben Davison saved AJ. Yeah, I suppose. Fury and Usyk are fighting for all the marbles. Joshua and Wilder have 3 losses apiece. The only difference is that Wilder's 4 years older. Yeah, so again, this card with Joshua and Wilder, it's inconsequential as far as Fury's concerned. It doesn't affect Fury's legacy at all, in my opinion. I know a lot of people think it does, but again, I don't really think about legacy that way. I don't think it really matters. Not that legacy doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter in the sense that, oh, you look better against another opponent. I don't think it really works like that for me. If you look at the medieval maps of flat Earth, they all have a black rock in the center. Perhaps that's what causes the magnetic interference with compasses. Just a coincidence. BlackRock is the biggest company. Oh yeah, BlackRock. They fund absolutely everything. They're like the largest investment firm in the world, and they own the gaming industry as well as many others. And Sweet Baby Inc., the company that's writing GTA 5 or GTA 6, sorry, they're funded by BlackRock. Yeah, it's amazing how one fight changes how fans view everything. After last night, everyone says AJ beats Fury now. Yeah, look, I've been talking about this for years. I've called it reactionary boxing fans. I've said for years Fury would beat AJ, and last night doesn't change my opinion on that. All right, one good performance or one bad performance doesn't change my opinion on a fighter. It doesn't change my opinion at all. Mark Demori, can he come back, become the first Australian and oldest heavyweight champion ever? I think he can surprise us. Del Boy mentioned in his video that he wouldn't. I think he said something about he's convinced Mark Demori's record is fake. Could you imagine that? Because that guy doesn't even look like he knows how to throw a punch. How did that guy have so many wins on his record? I don't understand it. I remember when he fought David Haye, and I'm thinking, this guy is a professional fighter with a winning record. Like, who has he been fighting? Because the guy literally is useless. Like, I honestly think I could beat him. I think there's people in this chat that could beat that guy in the ring. So weird situation, man. Really is. How that guy got that opportunity as well is shocking, man. Parker should have stopped Wilder. He was there for the taking. Yeah, I agree. I could have cashed in on 25-1 if he'd have just gone for it. Yeah, Wilder. I've thought that about a lot of Wilder fights. I've always thought Wilder's there for the taking. He's wide open to get hit. The guy never uses a guard. Barely ever moves his head. Doesn't appear to have a great chin. I mean, when he gets caught, he gets buzzed and hurt badly. I just don't understand why anybody, if they're fighting Deontay Wilder, just let the punches go. Throw straight punches. Throw the jab, throw the straight right hand. When you get inside, bend at the knees, as you're taught to do in any boxing gym, and work the body. Come up the top with uppercuts, hooks to the head, and you'll take Deontay Wilder out. And any half decent puncher would do that. But again, it's like these guys don't even try. Judas Ortiz. Parker should fight Dubois or Zhang next. Yeah, either one of them's a great fight. And I mean, where else is Parker gonna go? If beating Wilder's kind of the pinnacle of his career. I mean, people are gonna think more of him now than they thought of him when he was champion. Chicken leg Wilder couldn't even fight. Yeah, he can't fight. He's garbage. Do you think he has AIDS rather than cancer? Maybe. It's from all that dick he sucked from commentating, on Sky Sports. Evening, mate. Yeah, good to see you, old dad. It's been a while. God bless you, man. Hope you're good. Blessings to you and the family over the festive madness. Yeah, God bless you, bro. Have a good Christmas. Every time, man. I'd pick Fury to beat AJ, but Ngannou as well, even if fixed, was a bad look. I'd like to see Usyk clean out the heavyweight. Yeah, Ngannou was a bad look, but it was kind of supposed to be. It was just a rigged sparring session as far as I'm concerned. Fury didn't try at all, Just a rigged sparring session. Last night went perfectly for Hearn and AJ. Now Wilder, they have an excuse to go for IBF, which is what I think they were going to do anyway. Hearn was so happy Wilder lost. Yeah, maybe Joseph Parker just got the green light and they told him, yeah, go ahead, win the fight. Oh, but are you sure you don't want me to get hit with the right hand and go down? I mean, I'll take a bribe. No, it's all good. Go out there and win the fight. Wilder's too dangerous. Take him out. Yeah, Wilder's finished now. No doubt about it. I still think Fury beats Usyk and AJ. Yeah, I agree. It's tighter at the bookies. Yeah, yeah, that's good for me. I tell you that, because I'll be placing a large bet on Fury, and I don't approve of gambling, but in that situation, I think I'm covered. I doubt that Fury opted for Wilder 3 instead. Yeah, he was kind of forced into that, wasn't he? I seen a channel of a guy who picked every result, including the method, and got them all spot on. Who was it? Who was the channel? Because I didn't see many people picking what Parker to beat Wilder. I saw a few people in comments, but I didn't see any channels picking him. At least I don't think I did anyway. Maybe they had to make some changes after the Wilder Parker fight, but Wallin just didn't bother throwing anything of consequence. He did the same in his last fight with Gassiev. Yeah, Wallin's always been like a passive aggressive fighter. He's never been that entertaining or that ambitious. Yeah, yeah, but Dimitri Bivol is just boring to me. Now, I had a guy, a long-time subscriber actually, comment on my what do you call it, my video I made about the Day of Reckoning. Where I said the boxing fans have Stockholm syndrome, and one of my long-time subscribers got very, very offended, very emotional over me saying that Dimitri Bivol is boring. And yeah, he wrote a big long paragraph talking about how I'm a scumbag and all that, and I'm just hating on Bivol, and I'm like, dude, give it a rest, man. Seriously, like, like I've had enough of these. Like, you get these like rabid, like autistic, emotional fans of these fighters, man. People who are just they have like an obsession with one particular fighter, and if you criticize that fighter, they just lose their shit, and they get all emotional over it. I've just had enough of that crap. Had enough of it, man. Can't tolerate it anymore. Yeah, Ruiz would eat Wilder, literally eat him for his dinner. 5 biggest hype jobs, frauds in boxing. Wilder's one of them. Floyd Mayweather's one of them. Haney, Tank Davis, who I don't think's ever had a real fight. Too many of them, man. Parker Ruiz 2 is a logical step. I don't think Parker is a top 5 heavyweight though. Probably just inside the top 10. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Parker not throwing the fight shocked everyone. Yeah, he didn't stand right in front of Deontay Wilder like an idiot and let him clock him with a right hand and go down on purpose. That's what's the upset. That's what's surprising people. Bivol is not a pure fighter, unlike some other pure boxers. Bivol has more than one way of outboxing you. He did put Arthur down in the 11th and tried at times to put the finishing touches. I get it. Look, Bivol's a very good fighter. He's technically brilliant. He's got very good defense. He's a very, very well-rounded, solid professional. But personally, this is just my opinion. You don't have to agree. And I don't think I'm alone in this. Dimitri Bivol's not exciting. He's not entertaining. And like I said, I'm not alone in that. I mean, there's a reason why Dimitri Bivol, despite being a world champion for years now, despite being undefeated, despite beating a pound for pound, quote unquote, pound for pound great in Canelo, and despite being a guy with one of the best records on paper, there's a reason why, despite all that, he's still an undercard fighter. He's still fighting on undercards of heavyweight bum fights. That's because no matter what way you wanna rationalize it, he's just not exciting. He's not fun to watch. And if he was fun to watch, if he was exciting, he would have a much bigger following, and he would be able to, headline cards. But he can't headline cards because he's not a ticket seller, right? He can't generate money because he's just not really got a personality that sells, and his fights are boring. It is what it is. I don't know why people get so, emotional at putting that out. How much would you put on Fury? Probably like a couple hundred or something. Not gonna bet my house on him, but I'd put a decent amount. Fury could have given Wilder step aside money to fight AJ for way more money. But would Wilder have accepted it though? Like I don't know if he would have. Because again, but if he'd got the win, that would have opened up more opportunities for him to make even bigger paydays. Yeah, Wallen was overhyped after the Fury fight, and I think the Fury fight was his big night. You know, that was his big performance where he performed to the best of his ability that night. And like a lot of fighters who get their big shot, their big opportunity, he was never going to be able to reach that level again. You know, that was his night, that was his opportunity. He failed despite putting pretty much everything he could into it. And he was never going to be the same. And I just felt that fighting AJ, he was the opponent who was brought in to lose, and he knew his role. Shout out to Fight Film. Good to see you here, bro. Merry Christmas to you too, man. God bless you, bro. Every time, man. Yeah, Beevil could have stopped Arthur if he'd have been a little bit more ambitious and just let his hands go and stop being so cautious in the ring. I mean, it's not as if he's fighting a dangerous puncher. You know, Lyndon Arthur isn't necessarily a knockout artist, is he? So I don't think there was any reason for Beevil to be as cautious as he was in that ring, you know? Not the most boring, but on the spectrum. Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. He's not like Shakur Stevenson, but you know, he's getting there. Why is everyone talking about Ruiz? What has he done to deserve a fight with a top contender? He's not fought for about 2 years and asked for a ton of money. Yeah, well, he's got a pretty serious addiction to tacos and burritos, and he so he's got to fund it somehow. You know, them world buffet, all you can eat nights out. You know, they're quite expensive. They really are. Will they strip the IBF title off Usyk and make Hrgovic versus Gage? And if so, who wins? Um, I don't know, man. And you know, I could see them doing that because the IBF is very, very strict with mandatories. So if Usyk doesn't fight his mandatory, I could definitely see that being the case. And maybe that's what Hearn and AJ are counting on. You know. Yeah, autistic hipster fans, Cuban boxers and Beevil, they will die for. Yeah, it's like it's an autistic obsession that these guys have with certain fighters, and they gather all the trivia and all the factoids of these fighters, and they just want everyone else to basically dick ride them for them and join them in when we have our own opinions, and they can't understand why you would have your own opinion on a fighter that doesn't line up with theirs because they somehow see theirs as gospel truth, you know? Never understood it, man. Yeah, it was fun to see him beat Canelo, but I wouldn't say that the Canelo fight was necessarily exciting. You know, I wouldn't say it was necessarily an exciting fight to watch. It was just the fact that he was beating Canelo, who a lot of us don't like, you know? If it was anybody but Canelo, would it have been entertaining? I don't think so, personally. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat in a minute, by the way, if anybody wants to join. Let me know in the comments. Do you guys want to? Does anybody want to join? And if anybody does, I will. I'll drop the link. Right, where was I anyway? I'm losing the comments. I think I missed a couple here. Yeah, Beevil isn't Shakur or Rigo boring. He's more on par with Erislandy Lara. I'd agree with that because Erislandy Lara can be exciting on occasion, but for the most part, he just chose to run and stink the joint out, you know, and not even try to win in a lot of cases. Joshua turned up as overconfident and seemingly disinterested as Hrgovic did versus Zhang. He'd have got knocked out. I agree, absolutely, absolutely, because AJ just isn't as durable and doesn't have great stamina, you know. I wouldn't say Beevil is boring. His opponents are. Yeah, but that's the thing. You've got to make some of these guys fight. If these guys don't fight, then you know, if these guys don't fight, then you've got to force a performance out of them. Sometimes, you know, you got to make them be exciting. Like Manny Pacquiao, for example, has never been in a boring fight. Every fight he's had has been exciting because he's made it exciting. You know, if his opponent wouldn't fight, he would make them. You know, he would kick their ass and he would draw them in and he would force a performance out of them. You know, Bivol just isn't like that. He's too technical for me. You got them Sumerian Cossack features Nordic. Samaritan. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'll take that as a compliment. Lee Wood versus Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez by knockout, I think. Too powerful, too athletic. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, Larry. God bless you, bro. I would, but too loud here. Yeah, no problem, man. So good. So good. Prince Patel just became the first Indian IBO champion ever. Will Snitch Time Sonny Edwards look for that fight? Well, yeah, because that's that's a fight they could market. See, because Sonny Edwards doesn't really have any domestic rivals at all, which is part of the reason that he'll never be a big name. You know, he's in a division which just doesn't really interest casuals. You know, these small guys, they don't become big names in boxing ever. And Prince Patel, you know, he's got a big mouth. He's a prick. People would like to see him get his face smashed in. So a lot of people would probably be interested in that. You know, Sonny obviously talks a lot of trash. And, you know, the build up to that fight would probably get a lot of casuals interested. So, yeah, that'd be an interesting fight for him, you know. I had a bet on Bivol stoppage, so it was incredibly frustrating to see him headhunting all night. There is a world of difference in the punch variety between Bivol and Beterbiev. Yeah, definitely. Like Beterbiev, imagine Beterbiev was in the ring with Lyndon Arthur. Does that fight last 5 rounds? I thoroughly doubt it, because Beterbiev would force the fight out of him. Because if he just decided to stand there and do nothing against Beterbiev, who's hunting him down and trying to take his head off, he would capitulate and he would get stopped quickly. Now, Bivol has the speed and the athleticism to do a similar job, but he just doesn't will himself through. I know he doesn't hit as hard and he's not as strong as Beterbiev, but he's athletic enough and he hits hard enough to where he could force a stoppage against a guy who has no chin and doesn't have a lot of heart, you know? So, yeah, to me, I don't know, man. Dimitri Bivol, I know people get offended, certain people, when you state an opinion which isn't mainstream on a fighter like him, but I don't know, man. For me, he just doesn't do it. I have to take my time into consideration, you know? My time is precious to me. And I can't be bothered sitting and watching a guy in a horrendous mismatch going 12 rounds against a guy he really should be getting out of there in the first 4 or 5 rounds. I can't be bothered with that. I've got no interest in it. But yeah, I've dropped a link in the chat if anybody wants to stop by. It's up to you. It's all good. Can sing some Christmas songs if you want. I watched Die Hard the other day. Some banging Christmas songs in that one, man. Where was I? Oh, who's this? Oh, it's Kenwell. Yo, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. Hey,
Yeah, good
I'm
to see you,
good. I'm
bro.
good. That's good to see you, man. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, same to you, man. God bless you. What'd you think of the
No
fights
problem.
then?
From the Day of Reckoning.
Yep.
Um, I'll say the first. I'll say okay. The first. Okay, the first couple of fights were mismatches. Though,
Mm-hmm.
like the first, like from the beginning, it was a mismatch, and then who's this other Russian dude? Forgot his name. This other Russian and German heavyweights, they were entertaining. That was a good fight. What is this? Dubois and who's this? Roided Fat Albert was very entertaining. I'm glad that Dubom beat up Roided up Fat Albert.
Yeah,
Fuck.
same here. Yeah, Dubois and Miller. And the other one you were
Mm.
thinking of was Kabayel and Makhmudov, right?
Yes. Caballero. Forgot the name. Yeah, man. I actually picked Makhmudov to win, but hey, Caballero surprised me. He surprised a
Mm.
lot of people. But it
Yeah,
wasn't that big of an upset because
yeah,
Caballero does have a good amateur.
yeah, same. Like I never saw it as an upset. I said all through the build up, I've never understood the hype for Arslanbek Makhmudov because the guy had done nothing I mean, he was a big guy. Yeah, he had a lot of first round knockouts, but look at the competition he'd fought. The second he stepped up and fought a guy who was relatively durable in Carlos Takam, he looked garbage. Like, he looked awful. So I was quite surprised that he was such a big favorite going in against a guy like Caballel, who's a solid European level fighter. Like, I never understood why that was considered an upset. I didn't
Yeah,
see Makhmudov as that good, basically.
I think Makhmudov is overhyped because of the fact that he trains with Artur Beterbiev. I
Hmm.
think, yeah, I think so. Maybe it's because of that. There's the kind of association similar to what is this? Similar to Canelo and Oscar Valdez situation. Anyone that is you know. In fact, let's get to the top. Let me start a topic about you know like with modern day boxers and how they can influence a young generation of boxers. You know,
Hmm.
fucking Ryan, this fucking homosexual Ryan Garcia. Like I've said it from the get go. I knew like the first time when I saw Ryan Garcia from the start, right? I'm like, nah, this kid is a little bit overhyped. Yeah, and I predicted, and I told my friend, or I have some of my friends that said that, nah, Ryan Garcia could actually beat Tank. I'm like, dude, Tank Davis will fuck Ryan Garcia up. That is a
He,
real fight. Most of their
let's be
fights are
honest. The dude is a Instagram model. He's not a boxer. He's an Instagram model masquerading as a boxer. He's a pretty boy. He's got no business in a boxing ring, as far as I'm concerned. That guy's crap. He's trash.
exactly, exactly. I've been saying that from the get go. Okay, yes, he is speedy, is flashy, he has some athletic ability, but the kid lacks all the fundamentals.
No, Shane, I
Like,
can't speak Gaelic. Yeah, I agree. He's crap. He's rubbish.
yeah, because he lacks every single fundamentals. Because that's the thing, and the thing about with modern day boxer, like, okay, how can you attract? Okay, and another like a friend of mine asked like he heard about Naoya Inoue. I'm the one who introduced him to Naoya Inoue because the first time I watched Naoya Inoue, I think it was 2015 or 20 I think it was 2016 or 2017 somewhere there when he signed with HBO, right? I saw a couple
Mhm.
of highlights and stuff like that. I'm like I knew that Inoue can become a star, but he fights it, but why isn't he a bigger name? Why don't anybody know Inoue? I'm like, nah, whoa, wait. Fights in the smaller weight classes. In order for Inoue to become a bigger star, he has to fight in weight classes like maybe 126 all the way to 130 because that's where these are the weight classes from the beginning that introduce casuals, not the smaller weight classes
Exactly, and that. Oh, he just came off there. Oh, here
here,
he is again. And yeah,
right?
like you were saying. Shit. There we go. Like you were saying, like fans just aren't interested. And I was talking about this in regards to Sonny Edwards. Like casual fans aren't interested in like flyweights and like bantamweights and that. They're only interested in guys who are bigger. I don't necessarily know why
Exactly.
that is, but there's definitely a reason for it. But
It's
yeah,
not
it
about
is what
who's
it is. And
big.
and
Like
look, a lot of people try to. Yeah, because like they try to rationalize it and come up with all these reasons, but maybe it's just human nature. Maybe we just don't like watching midgets fight, because we think we could beat them.
exactly.
Maybe
Mm,
people just prefer watching guys fight who can do things that you yourself can't do as the viewing audience. Maybe that's what
mm.
it is. I wouldn't be
Like,
surprised.
like exactly. Like you just said about I love Dimitri Bivol. I always loved I respect I like Dimitri Bivol, but like you are right, what you said about him. In order for Dimitri Bivol to become a bigger star, he has to knock people out.
Exactly.
If you're not that exciting, then no one is gonna watch you. It doesn't matter how talented you are. It's either you have to be number one, you either have to have a big mouth personality, or you have to put on entertaining fights. That's how you
And
become a big star.
And
Look
he
at
doesn't have
Inoue.
either.
Exactly. Look at Inoue, for example. Inoue is a humble dude. He's fighting in the smaller weight classes where nobody watches. The thing that attracts Inoue, the thing that attracts people for, like, the reason why Inoue is a bigger draw than Bivol is number one, he puts people to sleep, and that's what people want in boxing.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, Alex. God bless you, bro. But yeah, that's the thing. In regards to Inoue, his fights speak for themselves. He doesn't need to go out there and tell you how great he is and how hard he is, because at the end of the day, you watch his fights and they're fantastic to watch because he's knocking everybody out. He's beating everybody in the fashion that he's supposed to beat them. You know, he's separating himself from the competition. But Dimitri Bivol, he might be as talented as Inoue. He might have just as much boxing skill, but it doesn't
Yes,
matter
yes.
because he's going in there and he's boring us to death. He's fighting a guy who is easily 3 or 4 levels below him. Somebody who he should be getting out of there. He should be separating himself like somebody
That's
like
the thing.
Naoya Inoue would, and he's not doing it, you know?
The thing is, okay, I understand. He is smart. Like, you're right. Bivol is one of the most, in my opinion. I've been saying this for years. Bivol has, like, he has the best fundamentals in boxing. Him, Inui, Crawford, in my Usyk, right? I rank them in the top five. I rank them in the top five. They have the best fundamentals in boxing. But the thing that Bivol lacks is aggression. That's the thing. He lacks
Yeah.
aggression.
It just doesn't seem like his personality. Like even just
And
the overall demeanor from Beevil, he seems like a guy who doesn't really like fighting. You know, he obviously he's passionate about boxing, about the technical side of things, but he just doesn't seem like a natural fighter, if that makes sense. And you get that with some guys. Like there's some guys who, and I think Otto Warlin is kind of like this too. And I did point this out in the build up to the fight, was Otto Warlin's not the kind of guy who's going to go in there, and if he's behind on points, he's going to put it all on the line and leave it all in the ring to try and take you out. He seems to me like a guy who is happy to be more of a game loser. And I get the sense that Dimitri Bivol has kind of a similar mentality, but he's obviously considerably more talented. He's a cut above the guys he's been fighting. But like I said, I think you know what I'm saying. He doesn't have that fighter's mentality that he's going to go out there and be the alpha and take over, you know?
exactly, I respect your opinion. I always respect anyone's opinion. And if like you said, you're right, and I'm a Pivo fan. I'm not offended by that. I'm not even
Mhm.
actually offended because it's you speaking the truth. If Pivo, right, even though he did beat the quote unquote pound for pound, the fake pound for pound star, right? Even though he did beat the fake like pound for pound star, why isn't he headlining? Why couldn't he sell for years? I know he has a great
Exactly.
amateur, but why
Like
didn't he sell?
he's literally he's been a world champion for years. Yeah, he's fighting on undercards of heavyweight bum fights. Like not too long ago, he was on a card where you had Derek Chisora and Katie Taylor fighting ahead of him. Like that tells you
I
everything
remember
you need
when
to know
was it?
about Dimitri Bivol, you know, and his
Uh,
market value basically.
And no one knows the type of guys he was fighting. Like, for
Mm.
example, if you made, let's say, okay, I know, let's be honest, Joshua Buatsi, I know Joshua Buatsi ducked the shit out of him, and Aziz ducked the shit out of him too, because let's be honest, these are also another UK bums,
Yeah,
in my
absolutely.
opinion.
I agree.
Nah, they're bums. They're bums. I know Joshua Boati is Joshua. Like, can I tell you something about Joshua Boati? He kind of reminds me of he's like the UK version of Demetrius Andre, in my
Mm.
opinion. He's like the UK version of Demetrius Andre.
He's a
He's not
coward. He doesn't fight
exactly.
anybody. He's ducked so many fights domestically, it's unreal. Like he ducked Buglioni, he ducked what's his name? Hosea Burton. He was offered all these fights on his way up
Hell,
who
he
would have
even
really
dug.
tested him.
Hell, he even dug some other South African dude.
He did, and
I'm
he
not
was
even.
offered a title shot against Bivol for a career high payday, and he turned it down.
It,
So that
it
guy
was
has
not
no
that.
interest in taking fights, you know.
And he had it like in number one. He's also number one in the WBA rankings. You could have
Mm.
called for mandatory, but yet
You could
now
have.
He could have. Like
And
that's
he
the
didn't even
thing.
need to do that. He didn't need to do that because they literally offered him the fight. So it doesn't make any sense, man. Like that guy is to me, he's just a waste of time. I don't know why anyone even talks about him. He's inconsequential. Like
Even
as far as I'm
um,
concerned, if you're a contender and you're turning down world title opportunities, I've got no interest in you as a boxing fan. I've got no interest because you got to have something to offer. And if you're not willing to fight for a title when you're offered it, and it's like you're saying, you're openly admitting, I'm not good enough to be a world champion. So I want to fight bums because I'm shit. Basically, that's you just admitting that. Basically,
just like just look at Chris Eubank, just like Eubanks Jr. I mean, let's
Mm,
be honest, Eubanks Sr. was a badass back in the day. His father was a badass, but he's just like Eubanks Jr. never highly rated him. He was just a hype job, and he's a glass jaw. That's why he
yeah,
turned down. He also turned. He had an opportunity to fight Triple G. Same thing
yeah.
with Demetrius. Oh, again, we're gonna get to American boxers just now. We're gonna start a topic about American, but let me just finish with Chris Eubanks. Chris Eubanks Jr. Right? Chris
Hmm.
Eubanks Jr. Right? Like Chris Eubanks Jr. also had an opportunity a long time ago to fight the big names. He had an opportunity to fight. I remember who was this? He had an opportunity to fight Canelo back in the day. Am I wrong?
I think he did.
Correct
Yeah.
me. Correct me if I'm
Also,
wrong.
Triple
He had
G.
an,
Like the Triple G fight was basically signed, but he refused to sign the contract. Lost his pen. You know.
he ducked competition for years. That's why he clearly sucked. And yeah, now let's get to the Amero bums. Let's talk about the Amero bums that the LDBC are overhyping.
Hmm.
Guys like fucking guys like freaking Stephen Fulton, Javante Davis, and all
Yeah.
these type of
And
clowns.
you never hear about these guys after they lose. I mean, nobody's talking about Stephen Fulton anymore, are they? I'll probably never hear that
No,
guy's name again. Because that's
I'm
the
not,
thing about American boxing fans. They put all their eggs. I mentioned this earlier in the stream when I was talking about Wilder. They put all their eggs in one basket, and when their guy loses, they just forget he exists, basically, and they never talk about him again. You know?
exactly. And let me tell you about the development. Okay, in certain countries, it's not easy. For example, it's like in boxing, right? Like I remember I asked you this, like in boxing, like you have an amateur system in Mexico. Do you have the Eastern amateur system and the Western, amateur system? In the like, let me start in the East. In the East, like for example, if you're that good, if you're a special talent, right? You're not gonna fight. Maybe you'll fight maybe one or two or three bums, right? But the rest, they feed you competition all the way, depending what kind of caliber amateur you are. Unlike in
Yeah,
America, you have to fight 20 bums to get a world title shot.
exactly.
In like,
Because they want to develop the guys. What they should be doing is they should be gradually increasing the opposition. If you're going backwards in terms of the opposition, yeah, you'll win, you'll look great, but you'll have a situation what you had with Arslanbek Makhmudov, where you're not learning, you're just blowing these guys away. And I want to get back
um,
to what Alex Black's saying here, because this is relevant. Jai Opitaya was fighting a guy levels below him last night, but I was still excited to see the KO. Beevil should have done that to Arthur, who is a similar level to Zorro. I didn't watch Beevil exactly.
exactly,
Jai
exactly,
Opitaya.
Alex.
We were talking about this. When you fight a guy who's levels below you, you take
You
that
should
guy out
not,
and you separate yourself. And that's what Jai Opitaya did.
yeah, like you have to blast them through. You have to blast them through. Like for example,
Exactly.
look at Inoue. Inoue, he's fighting when he's upping his competition, he's blasting them through. Huh?
Exactly. He Inoue, like that shows you how great Inoue is really, because he's beating guys in higher divisions who are highly ranked than the guys he was beating, but he's beating them in a similar fashion. Like he's
Hmm.
destroying these guys and he's stopping them, even though these guys are bigger than him and they're highly regarded.
Same thing with Pacquiao back in the days. Pacquiao had to, every time he upped the competition, he got better and better and better. That's why I say it's very important. Like for every single young boxers, guys like Jared Anderson, guys like Boots Ennis. I like Boots Ennis, but I have a feeling he might fall down when he does. Like a lot of people say that Boots Ennis would actually beat Crawford, and I tell them, nah, Crawford would actually school Boots Ennis badly. Hell, even who's this? Even Keith Thurman would actually beat Boots Ennis because the level of competition.
Exactly, he's not ready for those fights yet. He's still a prospect as far as I'm concerned. You know, he's
Mm.
just been
But
bigger than everybody he's fought. You know,
mm,
and he
exactly,
hasn't
and
done
that's the thing.
like, he hasn't done shit in his career as far as I'm concerned. I've seen nothing from him that tells me he's a champion. You know, look, he's a big guy, like he's massive for the weight, and he looks durable enough, and he's been able to look great against guys who are significantly smaller than him. But you put him in the ring with someone like Thurman, who's an experienced former champion. You put him in the ring with
The-
someone like Crawford, again an experienced champion. I think he could
Even
get taken
Spence,
apart. You know.
even Spence, even though Spence did take a hell of a beating, I think Spence would actually beat Jaron Ennis because let's
Yeah,
be honest, the PB. Let me tell you something. Everybody needs. You need to make a video about this. The PBC have produced the biggest frauds in boxing because
without a doubt.
like every time when a PBC fighter goes up against someone across the pond, like a top ranked fighter, right? On paper, on bloody paper, it's a 50-50 fight. But once they fight them, it's a mismatch. You saw an example, a good example, Fulton and Inouye this year, Crawford and Crawford and Spence. They were all one-sided beatdowns. The Fury and Wilder fight, all one-sided
Wilder and
beatdown.
Parker last night, you know? Wilder and Parker last
Exactly.
night. First time in years Wilder's left America, and what do you know? You got an opponent who not only beats him, but embarrasses him and dominates every round, you know? That tells you everything you need to know about Wilder. It's not like Joseph Parker is some elite level heavyweight. Joseph Parker has never proven himself to be the best heavyweight or even in the best 5 heavyweights, you know? Joseph Parker was a relatively poor champion, a guy who won his title based on it becoming vacant, essentially. And he goes in there, he got knocked out by Joe Joyce, right? He underperformed against AJ, right? Lost to Dillian White. I mean, come on, man. And he's going in there, not only beating Deontay Wilder, but schooling and embarrassing the guy, showing that the guy has no boxing skill whatsoever. Power's
I
overrated.
mean,
Everything about him's overrated. No defense, just a complete fraud. And what that shows you is that when you're fighting at home with that PBC protection, when you've got opponents who know their role, who understand
it,
that their role
no,
isn't to win the fight, their role is to be an opponent for you. It's very different to fighting in neutral territory with an opponent who's just there to win and nothing else. That's their job, you know. And
mm,
what you're saying about these PBC guys, it's so true. Because again, Stephen Fulton was used to fighting at home with these come forward basic opponents who were handpicked for him. With that Inoue fight, he was on the receiving end of a guy who wasn't there to lose, who was there to take him out. And it makes you wonder if those other guys that Stephen Fulton had fought, if they had that same mentality, and if it was in neutral territory, what would have happened? I mean, it really makes you think, you know?
and then, like, let me tell you this, right? Okay, you know what I like to call the PBC? I call it the Protectors Boxers Club
Yeah, the
as well.
Protected Bums Club.
Yeah, yeah. Let me fast forward. Let me fast forward to I forgot what I was about to say. Yes, Javante Davis. I'm telling you this. A lot of people think that Javante Davis, they like you see PBC. One thing I'll give PBC credit for one thing. They know how to promote certain fighters very, very, very well. But watch until Tank Davis gets a step up in competition. Yeah, people are gonna lose their minds when he gets exposed.
Yeah, when the boxing establishment in America has had enough of him, they'll feed him to somebody and he'll get battered. He will. Because again, he's
That's the
another very, very well protected fighter, well managed, you know?
Mm-hmm. That would be like even this other little brat, even this other brat. Who's this fucking kid again? He also looks like Tank. What's his name? Kermel Moten.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
the amateur guy, yeah.
like this kid is he's also another one. He's another a Meryl bomb that is also shoved down everybody's throats.
He's
K- k-
manufactured.
k- He's manufactured. Floyd Mayweather influencing and telling everybody saying that this kid is better than Inoue. And Floyd Mayweather saying that nah, this kid would beat Dude, number one, let me tell you this. Let me tell you fucking this. He even said that he could actually beat Leewood. Let me tell you this. Dude, even even who's this even Colin, right? Even Colin would beat this dude.
Yeah, he's not ready for either of those guys now. He's just an amateur.
Mm.
Like Lee Wood is a seasoned professional, a world champion. That's it's saying that he could beat him. That's just hype. There's no way they'd put him in with Lee Wood right now. No chance.
They- They're not even. They're not even gonna put him against Inoue unless Inoue does maybe show signs of decline, and it won't happen. It won't happen until the next decade or so.
Exactly. Like, nowhere near ready for that. Like to
He's
answer
not even.
Strober's question, the guy Hergovich fought, it was Mark Demori, one of the biggest bums you'll ever see in heavyweight boxing. That was a
Oh,
hilarious mismatch, man.
I know, but let me tell you something about Hergovich. Hergovich, I, I'm not sold on this guy. I
Me
still
neither.
think that I'm not sold. And a lot of people think that he got raw. Like a lot of people think that he got raw. Like he should have never won that fight against Zhang, because I believe Zhang won that fight.
Yeah. But personally, I gave it to Hergovich. I thought he just did enough to win, but I don't rate Hergovich. I think he's very overrated. I think with Zhang got off to a great start. He dropped Hergovich. He was winning the fight, outboxing him, but I think he just fell off in the second half and he ran out of gas. And Hergovich just outworked him and outlasted him, if you know what I mean, and won the later
And
rounds.
he
But
should, and
I wasn't
it's
impressed with him
funny.
at all.
And let me tell you something. Zhang could have knocked this dude out if
He could have,
Zhang
yeah.
was. The thing about Zhang is, if Zhang was a little bit more patient, you know, instead, and he was doing well in the first half, boxing him. But the problem is he was pushing up. He was pushing too much and he was also being wild. But this version of Zhang, he's a lot more cautious
Yeah.
and he's a
He,
lot more technical.
he was very unfit as well, Zhang. Like he just that guy
And that
Zhang
was
strikes me as a fighter. If you can last the first half, you can take him out late.
like for example, like Usyk. Usyk could actually beat Zhang, but Zhang
Mm,
would actually give Usyk a tough time in the early rounds, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, he'd be
I
dangerous
think
early on. He'd be
like
dangerous
like
for the first, say, 5 rounds, I think. But I don't
Zhang would have Zhang. I think Zhang would have knocked out Tyson Fury. Very very interesting fight, but I think Tyson Fury would win by robbery. He knocks out Deontay Wilder. He knocks out AJ. If AJ is lucky enough to survive, they might give a fight to AJ, in my opinion.
yeah. I could see again that's it's hard to really predict any fight involving Zhilei Zhang because I genuinely believe, and I'm not just saying this, like I genuinely believe any half decent heavyweight, he could knock them out. He's dangerous. He's got power and he's fast. He's quick with that straight left hand. But any half decent heavyweight that could make it the first 6 rounds, I honestly think they could take him out late. Hergovich to me was just too lazy to do it. Hergovich doesn't have the stamina, he doesn't have the athleticism, and he kind of falls apart as a fight goes on. But I think Anthony Joshua on a good night could maybe take Zhilei Zhang out late. But I would give Zhilei Zhang a very good chance of knocking him out early. I think he would knock out Wilder, no doubt about it, especially this version of Wilder. And but again, Zhilei Zhang, I'm just not convinced by the guy. I think his fitness is very poor, and I think he's a guy who really relies on his power. Without that, he has nothing.
Mm. And
That's just how I see
mm, let's speak about one thing about certain styles. The
it. Mhm.
Cubans.
Yeah,
Let me tell you, Cubans, right, are very, very, very talented boxers. One
Yeah,
thing I've watched, like they're very, very talented when it comes to the amateurs, but when they reach the pros, they become
boring. They become boring. Let's be honest.
look at Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux was overhyped. I
Yeah,
never I never was sold on Rigondeaux. I never was sold on Lara. They were very good in amateurs, but in the professionals, they clear. Even Robesi Ramirez, I thought because I knew Robesi Ramirez was overhyped because number
mhm,
one, like Robesi Ramirez, for like, how do you lose to a bum? You're an Olympic level fighter. You lose to a bum on your debut. Are you kidding me?
yeah.
You
It's weird
lose.
because I really did rate Robesi Ramirez, but I don't know, man. There's something about him. He just didn't like his last fight. I think he really underperformed, and like you're saying, he lost his debut. But I kind of, I kind of wrote that off as just being a lack of experience as a pro because kind of being in the amateurs for so long, you can get away with certain bad habits that you can't get away with in the pros, if that makes sense. Like, because again, you're fighting 3 round fights. You know, it's constant work rate, scoring points.
and
You're not really
and
setting about the guy. You know.
but in the professionals, it's different because number one, in the professional, guys are trying to take your head off.
Hmm. Yeah, they're
They're
not trying
gonna
to just outpoint you. They're trying to beat you up and stop you on occasion. You know.
they knock there's no, for example, there's no standing count rules. There's none of that nonsense.
Hmm.
There's no running around like a clown. Like, oh my god! And speaking of a clown, who's
Hmm.
this? Shakira Stevenson. I
Yeah,
never want to hear about this.
I
I
refuse to
never.
even watch that guy. I don't even watch his fights. I've got no interest in Shakur. He's the most boring fighter in existence. Zhang
And the
just a better
most
version of Luis Ortiz. Well, he's a lot bigger
and
than Luis Ortiz. He hits a lot harder, you know.
Mhm. No, 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 no. I'll call him. He's basically the new. I'll kind of say he's the more athletic version of Andre Ward. Another fucking. He's like he's like a more talented and a much more annoying version of Andre Ward. And
Yeah,
speaking of Andre Ward, another manufactured fighter. I like you said in your video, uh,
yeah.
like your old video. Like
Mhm.
Andre Ward, right? Was one of the most manufactured fighters to ever exist. The guy
An
had to
absolute
cheat his
fraud.
way. Like he's another big fat fraud.
Mhm.
And that's the reason. When Gutek, right, like you said, when
Yeah,
like number one, the first fight with Kovalev,
mhm.
100% should have been to Kovalev. The second fight, it was very disgusting. It was disgusting. That's when you see like I hate like I in fact I never liked Andre Ward even as a person. He was a piece of shit as well.
Yeah.
He was a piece of even his commentary sucks.
His commentary is disgusting. I don't know how anybody can listen to him, and he's a complete hypocrite too. You know, again, I've the less said about Ward, the better. I've done enough ranting about him, but what disgusts me
Mm,
about Ward is how the boxing media basically pretends as if he's some kind of amazing role model and this great guy and this amazing fighter who has such great skill. Look, it doesn't take a lot of skill to elbow someone in the eye, clinch them, headbutt them, hit them in the balls, let the referee protect you. Like that doesn't take skill. What takes skill is doing what someone like in what Naoya Inoue does, you know, breaking someone down and knocking them out cold and doing so within the rules of boxing. That's what takes
mm-hmm,
skills, you know.
mm-hmm.
Three trucks
And,
did beat
and number
Ramit.
two,
R
and
Sorry.
also another thing, like you say, like I remember you said in the I watched it a couple of I think it was a few hours ago. It was not that long. I showed it to my friend.
Mhm.
Like I showed it to my friend a few hours ago.
Yeah.
Um, let me tell you this. Like you said, this guy had to fucking cheat his way even through mediocre, even through a couple of cans.
Yeah. He did. Like, you see, if you look at some of Ward's early fights, he was fighting guys literally like journeyman with losing records, and he's elbowing them in the face, and he's
And
clinching them
like,
excessively, you know?
and the only fight was, I think it was Mikhail Kessler where he fought properly. That was the only best fight he ever had.
Yeah,
Majority of his fights were boring and lackluster, and he never left his own hometown. You understand?
exactly. He was scared of flying. He was scared of flying, wasn't he?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I'm
exactly.
sure he said. Did he not say that at some point? He didn't like going on planes. He had a fear of flying, and that
Yeah,
was
he
why in
did
the
say.
Super Six they actually organized it from very early on that he would
Mm,
that he wouldn't have to travel for any of his fights, even though they were supposedly rival promoters with their own fighters. Yet they all somehow agreed for Andre Ward to get every fight in his
mm,
home state. I mean, that sounds like a conflict of interest to me. It sounds like it was predetermined, you know? By the way, guys,
mm,
this is nearly finished, but I'm getting every little bit of it because it's a special occasion, you know? I'm gonna end
mm.
up burning myself.
As I was saying, yeah, as we were talking, look at Andre Ward. Look at Andre Ward. Andre Ward will go down as another big fat hype job. He's also another big fat hype job, and
Mhm.
Nassim as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nassim Nassim is also another big hype job.
Mhm.
Also, we're gonna go to the Mexicans as well. But let me finish with we're gonna get to Nassim and the Mexicans as well. But let me finish with Andre Ward.
Yeah.
Andre Ward, the second, after the Kovalev fight, right? He had
Mhm.
mandatories. Dimitri Bivol, let's be honest, Bivol would have outboxed him badly, but still maybe. It depends. It depends on how Dimitri Bivol wins. If he won it convincingly, maybe he will beat Andre Ward. But let's be honest, Artur Beterbiev would have put him in a stretcher.
Yeah, Artur Beterbiev would have knocked him out. If Ward tried to fight dirty on the inside with Beterbiev would have
And
smacked him behind the head, he would have elbowed him, he'd have done what he needed to, he'd have ragdolled him in that ring. Like, he
and
would
let
have
me
been
tell
like
you something.
Steve in there, you know?
And let me tell you something. Um, like Dimitri and people I don't understand. People clearly underrate Artur Beterbiev's skills. The guy is one of the most. He has underrated footwork. Yeah, he might
I
not
agree.
have the best head move. He might not have the best head movement. He might not have the best defense, but his fundamentals are all there. He even knows he's one of the best at fighting on the inside and breaking an opponent apart. Just look what he did. He was the only person in history to actually drop Alexander Usyk back in the amateurs.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. He has next level power, Beterbiev. That guy's so heavy-handed. By the way, I agree,
Mhm.
Stroker. You could put any pro basketball player in against Parker, they'd have done better than Wilder. Because at least a pro basketballer would have had good footwork and good balance. They wouldn't have been like a baby giraffe on ice, you know? So yeah, I agree there.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, let's go to another couple of hype jar. Let's talk about another thing: weaponized drug testing.
Yep.
Let's talk about. It's funny. Let's go back to Wild a little bit before we start with clenbuterol alvaroids
Well, I
fake
mean,
career.
weaponized drug testing and Wilder go hand in hand because any fighter who was a threat to Wilder, who didn't agree to lay down for him, we know what happened. They popped. You know,
Mhm.
we back in the day, we used to call it the Wilder Protection Program. That was the name we had for it. Like guys like Povetkin, Varchik, White, and Luis Ortiz. Conveniently, all these guys were clean. Well, apart from Ortiz, until they fought Wilder. Then they all popped dirty. You know.
It's funny. It's funny because let's be honest, Povetkin would have dropped this dude.
Mate,
Povetkin could have dropped this.
mate,
Could have,
Alexander Povetkin, he would have gotten on the inside. He would have
he would have.
bent at the knees. He would have ducked under Wilder's punches. And while Wilder, is all gangly and while he's swinging them big wide hooks, Povetkin would have gotten under him, uppercutted him in the chin, and knocked him spark out. That's what would have happened. No doubt about it, man.
Fact, fact. Let's get to another thing about drug testing in boxing. It's funny because let's be dead. Look at clenbuterol alvaroid's career. I mean, this guy is such okay. Canelo is an okay fighter, but he doesn't have the greatest skill set on the planet. He
Nope,
never
not at all.
did. Never did. If you
Can, can,
watched his career from the get go, number one, he couldn't knock out bums the way he's knocking out people in the last couple of years. In like you couldn't knock out bums, but how the hell was he able to knock out someone like um Kovalev?
Kovalev.
Exactly. How was he able to do that? You
Mate,
know?
look, I have a very, very hard time believing that a guy that goes 12 rounds with Matthew Hatton and can't even hurt the guy can move up to light heavyweight and knock out Sergey Kovalev. Look, you can rationalize it whatever way you want. You can say he got on the juice, he moved up and somehow found his man strength in a couple of years, whatever. You can rationalize it however you want. I don't believe it. My opinion, I'm skeptical about it. I just don't buy that. I don't buy that he can do that legitimately. I don't.
And number two, and also another thing is that he never had the greatest stamina in the world either. Because in his early career, when he reaches like past 6 or 7 round, he it's like he was already running a marathon.
Exactly.
He was
He's a bodybuilder. Canelo, you look at Canelo, he's similar in terms of his frame to Anthony Joshua. He's a guy who's so top heavy. He looks like a power lifter. He doesn't look like a boxer. And you can see that when he fought Dimitri Bivol. By about the fifth round of that fight, he had nothing left. And I remember Del Boy was talking about this not too long ago. Alvarez in that fight, like Canelo was dropping his hands, he was standing on the ropes, completely defenseless, completely gassed, and Bivol wasn't putting his foot on the gas. And if Bivol
Mm,
had just thrown combinations and went for the stoppage, how on earth is a guy like Canelo, who's significantly smaller than him, who's significantly slower than him, is pretty much a stationary target and has such poor stamina that he can't even hold up a guard? How is he going to go the distance? It doesn't make sense. And the only way you can rationalize it is that he was taking it easy on him.
And let me tell you something. Canelo and also this other fucking idiot IBFP, this other that idiot IBFP who like sucking Canelo's balls, claiming that Canelo is one of the greatest fighters of all time. He's not an all-time great. He's just like freaking Julio. He's just like Julio Cesar Chavez. He's a hype job.
Yeah. Just in my opinion, he had so many fixed fights. Look, people get mad at me for saying that. They call me a conspiracy theorist, whatever. I don't think his fights were real, man.
I mean,
I
look,
don't think
I
they
mean,
were real.
they were not. I mean, do you know how I noticed that Canelo's fights was not real? The Callum Smith fight. The
Yeah,
Callum Smith
I
was
agree. I agree.
very. I mean, like how number one, Callum Smith is faster. He's got better footwork than the guy. He had better stamina. But somehow, like I watched Callum Smith previous fights, he knows how to use his reach. But when he fought Canelo, a smaller, a plotty fighter with no footwork, and he's not that powerful, he forgets how to throw a jab.
I mean, look at Callum Smith when he fought George Groves. I think we can all agree George Groves, very dangerous fighter, a lot of power, good long reach, good jab, very good fighter, very, very good.
And
Callum Smith
wait,
schooled him behind a jab, broke him down, pressured him. You actually used his long range boxing to get the better of him in a technical fight, broke him down and stopped him. But he fights Canelo. Canelo doesn't hit anywhere near as hard as George Groves. He isn't anywhere near as fast. And Callum Smith's running away. He's sitting on the ropes, doing nothing, covering up. I'm like, what are you doing? You're fighting a guy who's half your size. Stick the jab
I
in his
mean,
face. Clock him with the right hand. Like, what's going on? It doesn't make
like,
sense.
like
It's
number one,
ridiculous.
it's like ridiculous. Number one, Callum Smith is like fucking. He's 6'5" with like an 80-inch reach, and you're fighting a 5'8" welterweight, right? With a smaller reach and who's much slower, but you're just standing there, and then that's when I smelled a dead rat. That Mauricio Suleiman went to his. I think Mauricio Suleiman went to Callum Smith and said, "Hey, amigo, here's $10 million. We want to make Canelo look good, and you don't want to ruin Canelo. Yes,
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
That's one thing Eddie Hearn is very well known for, and he's been known for this for years. He will take one of his British fighters, right, and he'll build them up locally at home. You know, he'll get them a title, he'll get them a little bit of name recognition, and what he'll do is he will pimp these guys out. He'll send these guys over to America just to get absolutely slaughtered by some American hype job. And these guys will go over there completely underprepared, and they basically just sell their title. And that is what Callum Smith did, you know, because Eddie Hearn, yeah, he promoted both guys, so technically it was an inside fight. But Eddie Hearn, you know, Eddie Hearn had put up a lot of money to get Canelo Alvarez that contract with the Zone, and to basically get Canelo on board. And Callum Smith, the only plan that he had for Callum Smith, because he didn't have any domestic fights planned, he wasn't really looking to make Callum Smith a stadium fighter or anything like that, because he just doesn't have that kind of appeal. Callum Smith was never the most popular British contender. So he took Callum Smith. He used every single piece of name value that Callum Smith had, and he sold it to Canelo and used it to build Canelo, who was the money man. You know, Canelo was the biggest pay-per-view draw in boxing at that point in time. So obviously the promoter had a vested interest in Callum Smith losing the fight. He obviously wanted Canelo to win. So when I see Callum Smith, like you say, a guy who's significantly bigger, hits significantly harder, but he's running and he's barely doing anything. He's not capitalizing on his reach,
And
his
faster,
superior power. He's not trying to win. That's what I saw.
and and he's also faster, and he has better footwork. But it just surprised me that you're letting a smaller guy just walk you down. I mean, you like when you were fighting when you were fighting George Grove, right? You didn't let that happen. You were putting a jab in his face.
Mate,
Hmm?
George Groves, this is one thing I'll say about George Groves. That guy, yeah, he had flaws, but he was bloody dangerous. He had blinding fast hands. He had incredible power for a super middleweight. And Callum Smith, show me a single moment in that fight where Callum Smith was in any way intimidated by the power or the counterpunching or anything. He got straight to work. He used his boxing fundamentals. He won the fight. He broke him down. That fight against Canelo should have been a fifth round knockout for Callum Smith. That should have been a good little man versus a good big man. That's what it should have been. But it wasn't. It was a good big man sparring with a little man and not trying to hurt him. It was a sparring session, and I know what sparring looks like because I've sparred with smaller guys, and I have to watch the power. You got to be careful, and that's what it looked like to me. It looked like the punches Callum Smith landed were basically receipts, right? He was pulling them. You ever see that where you see a sparring session between, say, a middleweight and a lightweight? And you
Mm,
see the middleweight, though, yeah, they tell you, the coaches tell you, throw the punches, land the punches, but don't put power into them. Pull the punches. That's what happened in that fight. It was literally a bought and paid for sparring session, you know?
mm. Like I can't believe it. Like Canelo, like in the Triple G fight, like that's where I started gaining hatred for Canelo. Number one, I used to like Canelo, but I ended up losing my respect for Canelo after he tested positive for clenbuterol. And guess what? The WBC made up some fucking stupid ass lie. They made some stupid lies and saying all that kind of nonsense, and then covering it up, saying that it's meat, it's roided up meat in Mexico. Like really,
You know
you
that they
think
they opened a can of worms there. So see with the WBC, and I talked about this at the time with them saying that it's just Mexican beef. What they did was they set a precedent so that any Mexican who tests positive for a similar substance like clenbuterol, they can just say, "Oh, I'm Mexican, so obviously I got it from the meat I was eating." So they basically created a pre-planned excuse for any Mexican fighter that fails a drug test, test
like
positive.
I know, like for example, like
All
Shinsuke
to protect
Yamanaka.
Canelo.
Yes, it's not just Canelo. It happened with Shinsuke Yamanaka and Luis Neri, another bum,
Yep, yep,
another.
absolutely.
And speaking, we're gonna go to the Inoue fight just now, and I'm gonna bring up Luis Neri soon. But look at the Luis Neri. early in his career, right? He also Luis Neri was another guy who also been dropped by bums. But when he fought Yamanaka, right? When he fought Shinsuke Yamanaka, because I've watched Shinsuke, Shinsuke was also a very talented boxer. Sure, is he as sharp as Inoue? No, but he was very, very talented. And this was over the hill, Shinsuke Yamanaka, already at the back door of his career, right? And this
Yeah.
guy had to fucking cheat his way
Yeah,
to
he was
beat
a
him.
science experiment. Like Luis Neri was, he was juiced up to the gills for that fight. He was. He was on another
Hmm.
level to what he'd been prior to that, you know. But you notice how the WBC, they gave him that cop out, and it was all about protecting Canelo. Luis Neri was able to say, "Oh well, I had Mexican meat, you know, that I was tainted," just because, you know, he basically rode the coattails of the Canelo situation, you know, the protection program. That's why I say it opened a can of worms there. And what Fight Film's saying here is true. What Wilder went from 212, 238, 213 of lean muscle in 4 years in his mid to late 30s. This is considered impossible for natural bodybuilders, let alone a boxer. Yet it was Wilder's opponents who are testing positive for like muscle builders and stuff like that. You look at Wilder, how is it possible for someone who's not on anabolic steroids to lose fat while at the same time gaining excess muscle? It doesn't make any sense. Unless Wilder is like a genetic freak, how is that even possible? So someone
Nah,
explain that. It doesn't make sense, you know?
nah, like you saw, of course, Wilder was juiced to the gills, but obviously, Al Heyman, Al Heyman Al Heyman and the WBC had to, they had to give a couple of million Savada to shut up. You don't say anything about the drug testing. That's what they
Yeah,
said.
VADA is basically, it's a bought and paid for agency. It's kind of like UCAD with Anthony Joshua. I was talking
Mm,
about this in a previous stream, how I've heard that Anthony Joshua has a TUE with UCAD where he basically can
mm,
have testosterone replacement. And other fighters that don't get afforded the same TUE, they would get banned for 2 years under the British Boxing Board of Control's rules. But
mm,
I mean, when it comes to a guy like AJ, obviously because he brings in so much money, he's able to get a TUE, and it's the same with
mhm.
Canelo and all these pay-per-view fighters. They can literally take whatever they want, but it's
And they
their
can get
opponent
away with it.
that tests positive
Just
because
like
it's the weaponized drug testing, you know?
exactly. It's what we were talking about, weaponizer. Just like look at also Floyd Mayweather, another big fat hypocrite. You know, remember he ducked Manny Pacquiao for years, accused him for taking steroids. But when he was fighting Manny Pacquiao, he had he tested positive for IVs. But guess what? They swept it underneath the rug.
Yeah, there was no media reports about that at all. The media didn't even talk about it. I can tell you right now, if it is Manny Pacquiao who was caught getting injections before the fight,
Look at
you can guarantee you all the news channels would have released articles about it. No doubt about it.
mm, no
But
doubt.
somehow when Floyd does it, it's just nothing to see here, you know?
No, they do that to every big star. Do they? It's funny thing. Number one, have you ever heard any? Have you heard about the steroid tests with Javante Davis?
No, I've not really looked into it, but I can imagine. I can imagine what's happened there, you know?
Mhm. Have you ever heard of any steroid tests with who's this Deontay Wilder? No, you
Nope,
never
not
hear
heard of it
anything.
before.
You never heard about Connect. Only once, but the WBC swept it underneath the rug.
And it worked in his favor because now
Hmm.
anytime Canelo tests for anything, you can just say it's tainted meat, you know?
And you can tell that Canelo is a juiced up monkey. You can tell that. You can
Yeah.
tell that
The
he's a
the the
juiced up
guy's a
monkey.
bodybuilder. He literally looks
Hmm.
like he looks like, one of these, like, competitive bodybuilders to me. That's what he looks like.
Mm. And okay, yeah, and compare that to Naoya Inoue, right? Naoya Inoue, look at his body type. You can tell he's a clear athlete, just like Manny Pacquiao. They're athletes.
Yeah.
They're naturally quick.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
I've seen no evidence that they're on anything. I mean, they could be for all I know, but I haven't seen any evidence to the contrary, you know? 'Cause
mm-mm, I've
Zito's
been watching.
asking, "Where's the missus now? Did you want me to go get her?"
Mm,
Go get her if you want. I don't know, man. Yeah. Yeah, Wilder
yeah,
forgot to put the dive clause in the contract. Yeah, yeah, of course.
yeah, yeah. Let's get to Naoya Inoue now.
Mm.
Naoya Inoue is gonna fight Marlon Tapales,
Yeah.
and in my opinion, in that fight, um, Tapales looks like an interesting character. He is an awkward southpaw, but I've watched a little bit of tape on this guy. I didn't know anything about Marlon Tapales until you upset MJ. I didn't know anything. In fact, also you didn't know crap about Marlon Tapales either, right?
Yeah,
Before the MJ
I'd never
upset.
heard of him. I'd never heard of him until recently.
Nah. Until but once I watch a little bit of tape, I'm like, nah. I think in a way could dust this dude inside. I'll say 3 or 4 rounds,
Hmm.
in my opinion,
I
because
think it's
number one,
possible. I do think he looks I do think he's somewhat durable to Pollard. I think he's a little bit better than Fulton. Not much better, but a little bit. And I could see him I don't know if he'll last as long as Fulton, but I could see him maybe having a little bit more success, if that makes sense. Like maybe being a bit more aggressive, but in a way that could make him get stopped quicker, if you know what I mean.
mm,
That could
nah,
happen.
because well, from what I've saw from the MJ fight, the guy looks like he's a jack of all trades. He's not a specialist in any area of boxing, you
Kind of a
know. He's not.
well-rounder.
Yeah, yeah. He's a jack of all trades. He knows he can do a Philly shell a little bit. His defense is okay, but skill wise, if I can compare Tapales to all of Inoue's opponents, like who's this Omar Narvaez and Nonito Donaire Fulton, his skill set does not match up to them. And number two, he's a southpaw. And every single southpaw that Inoue has fought all never went past 3 rounds. So that's why I say he's gonna blast through this guy relatively easy, in my opinion.
Yeah, it probably will. It does seem like a foregone conclusion because Inoue's just the guy right now who's so highly regarded, and Tapales just seems like a means to an end. He's just a way to get those last two belts, you know. So I think we're all in agreement that Inoue is going to win that fight. It's just the only question is it going to be a more difficult fight than his last couple, or is it going to be more of a challenge? And it's really hard to say. It just depends
Nah,
on what kind of Tapales shows up, you know.
yeah, nah. Because let's be honest, I checked. I didn't know anything about Tapales until he beat MJ. So I watched the MJ highlights. Tapales
Mm.
was doing a little bit well from the get go, because in my opinion, MJ, right? MJ, MJ is a better boxer than Tapales. Did you watch the highlights, right?
I haven't watched it yet. No.
No, I think you should watch it.
Yeah,
MJ,
I'll
in
give it
my
a look.
opinion, uh, MJ, right, is a better boxer than Tapales, right? And Tapales, right, like he was doing well. Then Tapales started slowing down in the later rounds. I'm like, oh fuck, you cannot fight like that against Inoue. That's when I saw that, nah, this motherfucker, this dude doesn't have a chance against Inoue. He really does not have a chance at
Mhm.
all. I'm like, nah, nah. I think I'm like Inoue will cook this dude, and like if Inoue, and that's a good thing about Inoue. If Inoue beats well, when Inoue beats Marlon Tapales, number one, he's gonna become the first fighter in history to actually. He becomes the first fighter to be. I won't say the first, but he becomes the fastest fighter to become two-time undisputed, and he actually captured 18 belts. He captured 6 belts in 18 months, which is record breaking. That's Hall of Fame worthy. And they say that and Inoue's manager, from what I've heard, say that he's gonna stay at 122 for a little bit to fight Luis Neri and Casemiro and all that kind of stuff. But I still think Inoue will walk through these guys. But let's get to Luis Neri. Number one, I really want to see Inoue beat the shit out of Luis Neri, but unfortunately, that fight cannot happen in Japan. That fight will happen in USA after the Yamanaka incidents.
Even in USA, I think Inoue knocks him spark out. I honestly do. That's an easy fight, I think. I honestly think it is.
He's a fucking
Oh,
bomb.
by the way, what Daniel says here, the majority of YouTube content creators are bought and paid for and programmed. That's true to an extent, but even in regards to that, you don't necessarily need to be bought and paid for. The thing is, a lot of these guys, what they'll do is they'll follow the trend, they'll follow the algorithm, and they'll simply say whatever appeals to the largest common denominator possible. So it's like they don't always necessarily need to be paid off by like a corporation. A lot of the time they can just say whatever is the generally accepted consensus, and that'll get them more views and by extension more revenue. But it's definitely true to an extent, you know.
Okay. Yo, continue talking to the people. I'll be back in less than 3 minutes. I need to continue. I'll be back.
Yeah, no problem. So good, man. See you soon. Where was I? Manny was definitely taking something. Yeah, I mean, it's possible he was, but I've never seen any conclusive evidence either way. So I'm not gonna go ahead and accuse him of that. You know, I didn't expect the Arslanbek upset. Credit to Caballero; those body shots were pretty vicious. True underdog spirit. Yeah, I personally never rated Arslanbek that highly. I just saw him as just a big guy who can punch, but was probably probably a bit chinny, probably a little bit one dimensional, and I just never saw him as anything more than that. I never saw him as a serious contender because he never proved it. The guy's 34 years old or something like that, and he spent most of his career fighting jobbers, and he's just absolute bums. And the second he fought a somewhat durable opponent in Takam, he got completely exposed. So I wasn't that surprised by that one bit. MJ punches were too wide, and Tapala's defeated him with straights. He can only beat Inoue with combination and higher guard, yeah. But the problem is Inoue is just far too strong, I think, far too powerful. And I just think he'll break him down. Like I definitely think Inoue will stop him. I definitely think he will. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. Neri had a great fight against Avanesian. Overrated, yes, but always entertaining. Yeah, he's a tough come forward fighter, so he's going to be fun to watch, isn't he? Inoue will knock him out though if that fight happens. I don't want him to fight Neri. Just move up, fight the best featherweights. Yeah, but there's going to come a time where he's going to reach his limit in terms of weight divisions. He can't just keep moving up. It's going to come a time where he's going to find a limit. So I would have nothing against Inoue spending some time in one division and establishing himself. I don't think that would be a problem. Well, a lot of fighters have acne on their back. I mean, look at Marquez's back from the Pacquiao fight. That was insane.
I'm back. I'm
Yeah, how's it
back.
going?
Now I'm back. Yeah, where were we? Luis Neri versus Inoue.
Yeah.
Number one, Luis Neri is an idiot fighter. He just comes forward and swings haymakers, and that's the type of style that Inoue likes.
Yeah.
That's a type of style that favors Inoue, and that fight will actually do well in America, in my opinion, because and I think if Inoue was to return to America, it will most likely be in Las Vegas, California, or Texas, because there's a lot of Mexican fans that side.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, Neri will definitely bring like the Mexican crowd.
Yes, and Inoue is a big pay-per-view. He's a big pound-for-pound star, so it will attract a lot of people. In my opinion, that fight will not last 3 rounds. The only thing that worries me about that fight is that the only thing that worries me, right, is that Luis Neri might come in juiced. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But skillful, like every way, Inoue fucks him up.
Shout out to CPB. Good to see you here, bro. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too.
Merry Christmas, brother.
Parker versus Zhang if the WBO belt gets vacated. Again, that's a very dangerous fight. Zhang could knock him out early, but if Parker can last to the later rounds, he could stop him late. He could. Just my opinion. But yeah, as
I
far as
think
Lewis Neary goes, even if he's juiced, if truth be told, I think Inoue knocks him out. I do, because I think that the skill gap between them two and the power and overall athleticism is just so wide apart. I think Inoue batters him wherever that fight is. They could have that fight in Lewis Neary's bathtub. He still gets knocked out.
I don't mind. That's why I said I don't mind seeing that happen. Because he said he's gonna have 3 fights. That's what his manager said. He'll have
What,
three
three
fights in
fights at featherweight? You mean?
no, in 2024 he's gonna have 3 more fights at 122.
All
One
right,
of
yeah,
them is, yeah, that's what he said. And then after that he's gonna move up to featherweight. And that's where things get a bit interesting for him. That's
it's
when
going to be interesting to see how far his power carries up with him. Like if he moves up to featherweight and even super featherweight, like Apology Man is saying here, it's going to be very interesting because guys are going to be bigger, they're going to be more durable, and maybe Naoya Inoue's style will have to change a bit, and he'll have to be a little bit more
exactly.
tactical. Because we see that with
Okay.
guys moving up. We saw that with
Like,
Pacquiao at welterweight. He wasn't able to knock
mm,
guys out at welterweight because he was just too
mm.
small. He had to become a
Well,
boxer, and he was a very good boxer.
same thing with Nonito Donaire when he moved up to 126. He got knocked out back in the day
Yeah, exactly.
because like yeah, he was fighting guys that were a lot more durable. But to compare, if I were to compare Inoue and Donaire, right? Inoue in my then prime Donaire, in my opinion, Inoue is much smarter than Donaire. He's a better boxer, skillfully than Donaire. Sure, he might, in my opinion, I still think Donaire hits a lot harder than Inoue, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I think he still hits harder than Inoue. Prime Donaire hits harder than Inoue. I think Inoue is too smart. You will have to rely on you have to rely on his athleticism to win fights now. When
Yeah,
he
he'll have
does move up, he
again,
has yeah,
when you're fighting bigger guys, you can't be just a destroyer. There's no way he could move up and still have the same performances. He'll have to make some
no,
changes. Like you're saying, Nonito Donaire had a monster left hook. That guy was putting guys to sleep. But when he moved up to 126, he was getting battered by guys, just guys who weren't as skilled as he was. People like Nicholas Walters, but they were just far too big and strong for him. And there's nothing about Inoue that tells me that he's superhuman and that he'll be able to just run through guys who are way bigger than him. Like if you got a guy who's significantly bigger than him, he might be able to batter them for a few rounds, but chances are they'll be durable enough to outlast him, if you know what I mean, and put it on him in the later rounds. So I think
ex-
it would be wise for him to maybe stay at 122 for a little bit longer, just
yeah,
until he establishes himself a bit more.
that's what I say. That's what I say. If I was Team Inoue, I wouldn't even bother myself going to 122 to 126. I'll say let's defend undisputed 3 more times, right? Or 4 times, and just check the coast what's going on the other side because we also have this other guy, Otepek Komlotov. Have you heard about that guy?
I've heard of him, yeah.
He's pretty good. He's a very good Uzbeki fighter. He's fighting another Amero Bum Raymond Ford, yeah, at featherweight. I think it's going to be interesting. And also we have Espinoza as well, who just, like I said, Espinoza, who just recently beat Ramirez. It clearly shows that. But let's be honest, Espinoza should not be fighting at 122. Like he should not be fighting at 126. He should be fighting at that guy should be fighting at somewhere around 140, 147, in my
Mhm.
opinion. That guy is way too big. And that's why I
Yeah.
say, in my opinion, yes, skill for skill wise, for example, like you're talking about, if Inoue had to fight Espinoza, right? Skill for skill wise, Inoue would beat Espinoza everywhere. It's just that, like you said, the power and the durability will carry on unless Inoue has to adjust and change his style. You saw what happened with Ramirez.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people really underestimate the difference that size can make in boxing. You know, because it's so different when you're fighting a guy who's several pounds heavier than you to fighting a guy who's your size. And Inouye's
mm,
in for a rude, like we've been saying, he's in for a rude awakening if he thinks that he can just move up division and still knock everybody out, you know?
yeah,
And
but
I do agree, by
luckily,
the way, CPB, I do agree. Pacquiao should have stopped Jeff Horn. I think he let him off the hook. But yeah, it is what it is. He paid the price, you know, because he didn't get the decision in that one, you know.
saying, as you were
But it's what it
saying,
is.
as I was saying, right? I think in a way, in my opinion, I think he's too smart. I don't think like in a way, judging by his character and his personality, I don't think in a way is that stupid enough to think that his power will carry up. He's a down to earth person. He knows his flaws. I don't think he's stupid enough to do that kind of mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, he seems
I
like a
don't.
smart guy to me in a way. Like he seems clever.
Yeah, he's not stupid enough. He did
Like
say he was gonna move.
do you know what
Like,
really told me that Inoue was a guy who had a decent boxing brain, like a very good one? You know when he fought Paul Butler, and I know it's
yeah.
Paul Butler, he's not a very good fighter, but what I noticed in that fight was in the early rounds, Inoue was very, very keen to make it a good fight for the crowd and to really put it on Paul Butler and get a stoppage. And Paul Butler just wasn't interested. He was sitting behind the guard, not trying, really just in survival mode the whole entire fight. And Inoue to me looked very, very patient, if you know what I mean. He didn't look like he was going in there getting all emotional, you know, swinging for the fences, trying to get the guy out of there. He looked to me like he was like, all right, you want to sit behind the guard? I'll just embarrass you and I'll clown you and I'll make you look stupid. And that was what Inoue did. Like Inoue looked like he was on cruise control. And then eventually, you know, he waited and waited. He picked away and probed, and eventually he got the knockout. Like he was able to finally get Paul Butler in a position where he just couldn't run anymore. And he was getting
Hmm.
round the guard, hitting him through the guard with uppercuts. He was getting him to the body. He was getting him with hooks in close. And eventually he found that shot and he took him out. And it told me that Inoue has multiple gears, if you know what I mean. He has multiple assets to his game. He's not just a knockout puncher. He's a guy who's a
Mm,
very, very technically astute fighter who can break you down and get a stoppage when he needs to, you know? He's the
mm.
opposite of Dimitri Bivol. He's a guy who will go in there and get the stoppage, you know, and he
You
knows
mean
how to get it basically, you know?
not just Beevil, you could also say the opposite of Deontay Wilder as well.
Yeah, who's just a one-trick pony with one punch, you know? Completely useless and one-dimensional, basically, you know?
Mm. The thing about Inoue is a very, very, and one thing I like, Inoue has one of the best boxing minds. It's not, and people have been like, when I saw Inoue, it's not just the knockout. The thing that made me a fan about Inoue, it's not when he knocks. The thing that makes me a fan of Inoue and who's this, and Triple G, right? The thing that made me a fan of Inoue and Triple G, it's not because they knock people out. It's how they set them up, and they rely on boxing fundamentals.
Exactly. That was what was so exciting about Triple G. It wasn't just that he had the power to knock you out. Like there's plenty of guys that have knockout power. There's plenty of guys that hit very, very hard. There might be even be some guys in that division that hit harder than Triple G. Like maybe Lemieux or someone hits harder, but Triple G was a guy who he just knew how to set up the knockout perfectly. He had great timing, you know, great boxing fundamentals. He would get on the inside, bend at the knees, you know, he would slip your punches and counter over the top of them and stuff like that. And he was a guy who was very, very good at positioning you, you know, using his footwork to cut off the ring, positioning you where he needed you to be to get the knockout. And that was what was so exciting about Triple G in his prime. He was a very
And he
difficult
knew.
guy to run away from. Like these Amero
Mhm.
bums couldn't stay away from him, you know?
They like you saw, and look what happened with Look what happened with Stephen Fulton. Stephen Fulton, another Amero bum, thought that Inoue. He thought Inoue was either a slugger or a one trick pony. But once he stood up in there, he was like, okay, yeah, this motherfucker can this motherfucker box? Yes, he can. And he was boxing him and beat him at his own game.
He beat him
That's
in
it.
every single aspect. He was the better boxer, he was the better puncher, he was the better
He was
fighter,
fast.
the better thinker, the better mover. He was better than Stephen Fulton in every single way. And Stephen Fulton, it's like he went into that fight thinking, yeah, he's a puncher, he's the knockout artist, but I'm the sweet scientist. It was like he'd been gassed up by all his fanboys and his sycophants to think that he was, this slick black American technical, Floyd Mayweather type guy, because that's the narrative in it with these Americans. They always get told, oh, they're the technical guys and they're superior in that regard. And yeah, in some cases it might be true, but what they don't understand when you've got a guy like Stephen Fulton, he's fighting at home every single time. He's got everything set up for him. His opponents know their role. Most of them aren't punchers. Most of them aren't world class. They've been brought in to be an opponent for him. That's very different when you're fighting a genuine world class opponent and a guy who's come to win. And I think what it looked like to me in the Inoue Fulton fight, it was like Fulton, it was a shock to the system for him. Like he realized this is his level. Like this is completely out of his comfort zone. He's not gonna get bailed out by the judges and the referee. He's not got an opponent who's there to make him look good. He's got a genuine fight on his hands, and it was like he had that same look that Wilder had when he fought Fury in the rematch. Just it
Mm.
was nothing like he'd ever seen before in his career, if you know what I mean.
Nah,
That's how it
you look
looked.
at his. I watched that fight. I rewatched that fight a couple of days ago. I'm like the full fight a couple of days ago. You saw like with Stephen Fulton, right? In the second in the end of the second round, he was like, nah, this guy was just too fast. You saw his body language as well. I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into? I thought it was an easy fight for me.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
exactly. He had no idea what he was getting into with that fight. He was
And then
completely clueless.
he was completely clueless. And look how Inoue was able to. And the thing about Inoue is not a reckless power puncher. What did he do? He was throwing the jab to the body. Jab, 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 conditioning him and caught him with the perfect. And that was like, damn, damn,
Exactly.
that was
Just like
sick.
Daniel says here, those stab jabs Inoue was landing on Fulton were some of the cleanest body shots I've seen in a while. That's what those jabs to the body are. They're to bring your guard down and to set you up for the knockout and keep you off balance. Because if you're off balance, you're much easier to knock out. And that goes to show you, like what I was talking about earlier, Naoya Inoue, not only is he a knockout puncher, he knows how to set you up for the knockout. He knows how to get you right into the position, just like Triple G, where he needs you to be to knock him out or to be knocked out, and that's half the battle. It's all well and good being a big puncher like Wilder, we can all say is a big puncher, but when Wilder's in there against Joseph Parker, a guy who's significantly more technically astute than he was, and you saw this last night, Joseph Parker wasn't giving Wilder the opportunity to land his best shots and knock him out. And Wilder, he might have that big right hand, but he has nothing to set it up with. He doesn't have a jab. He doesn't have a left hook. He doesn't have the kind of footwork and understanding of distance control to kind of get you off balance and put you into a position to knock you out. He doesn't have it. Inoue has
He's
that,
a,
just like
it's,
Golovkin had that.
it's because he's a lazy ass world champion. He was the one of the laziest champions ever.
Exactly.
He
I
was
only have to be perfect once was his famous quote, wasn't it?
yes. Like I said, like come on, come on. Yes, number one, it's not about you don't like even if you are powerful. Look at Inoue's team and his father. He doesn't have yes men in his corner compared to Wilder.
Exactly.
He
He has
doesn't have
boxing coaches. He has guys who are going to give him constructive criticism. They're not just going to go, "There you go, there you go. He don't like it to the body. There you go, there you go." No, these guys are going to tell him, use your jab, cut off the ring, move your head, keep your hands up. All right. Get proper foot positioning. They're going to tell him the things you need to tell a fighter. They're going to drill him on how to throw every single punch in training camp. They're going to be fully prepared for anything they're up against. I don't see that
mm,
with a guy like Wilder. Deontay Wilder
mhm,
strikes me, like you said, the people around him are yes men. They'll see him hitting the pads and they'll go, "Oh, look at the power." They'll see him hitting the bag. "Oh, amazing! You're gonna destroy him. You're gonna
And
whoop
they
his ass. You're gonna knock him out."
mm,
Like it's just anything that they tell him is what he wants to hear. They're not gonna tell him, "No, no, you need to throw the jab properly and you need to cover your chin. You need to keep your hands up." They're not gonna tell him these things because if they tell him these things, he'll throw a bitch fit. He'll spit his dummy out. He'll throw his toys out the pram and he'll sack them just like he did to Mark Breland.
mm,
These guys, like a lot of and I think it's these privileged American fighters, they don't have the discipline that someone like Naoya Inoue has. They don't have the discipline that some of
like
these guys like
Triple G.
Golovkin had, where they came through a proper amateur program where they were taught the fundamentals before everything else, and they were drilled these fundamentals for their entire lives near enough. You don't get
And look
that
at him.
Western fighters
And
very much.
mm, Inoue, like look at Triple G and Inoue, and you watch their workout sessions. Yes, these guys are powerful guys, but their coaches don't. Their coaches are not gonna say you have to rely on that. Their coaches act like they are not powerful at all, and that's what you need. And even like with it, like a couple of days ago with Inoue, when he was talking about Marlon Tapales, even though I think Inoue is, everybody knows that Inoue is going to run through Marlon Tapales, Inoue and his coaches are telling him that, hey, like Inoue even said it himself that, nah, I don't, like he says, it scares him. When people are telling him that Marlon Tapales is an easy opponent, it scares me. That's the type of, that's what I like about Inoue.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like taking that sort of mentality into consideration, it makes you wonder how does a guy like Deontay Wilder, who has been boxing for I don't know how long has Wilder been boxing, like 17 years, something like that. How in that many years there's a guy who's had like what 40 odd professional fights, has been an Olympian in the amateurs. How does he not develop a jab? Like, how did he not learn? Did no coach in all them years of Wilder being a boxer, amateur and professional, did nobody teach him how to throw a jab, how to get proper technique, turn over your punch, keep your shoulder in line with your chin so you don't get hit and countered, and to bend at the knees and to throw your left hook and actually throw it over the top and turn it over with the knuckles. Like, how did no trainer in all them years ever teach him to develop proper punching technique? And to me, at least from my perspective, it strengthens my personal belief that Deontay Wilder had so many fixed fights, because you cannot tell me that a guy that doesn't have a jab, doesn't have a left hook, can't throw an uppercut to save his life, never uses a high guard, barely ever moves his head, has terrible footwork, has
And
terrible punching technique in general, and a dodgy chin. How is he a heavyweight champion for all them years? It doesn't make
just,
sense to me.
just like Rolly Romero as well, another Amero bum.
Exactly, and a guy who, in my opinion, has never had a real fight except for the ones he lost. As far as
Mhm.
I'm concerned.
Like imagine, like this guy has been outboxed by a goddamn no, like who's this fucking Arthur Spilska, whatever the fuck his name is, right? The same dude that was knocked out by David Chisora, and people say that he's the biggest puncher of all time. This is the
Exactly.
same
Derek
dude,
Chisora knocked him out in 2 rounds, but Wilder's the biggest puncher of all time, and he took 9 rounds to knock him out and was
and
losing
he was
prior.
outboxed.
Man,
Nah,
it's ridiculous. What Wilder is such a fraud. That guy. There's I get comments all the time. People telling me, no, no, Wilder's so amazing. He hits so hard. You just don't understand. He sets these guys up, and he's got so much accuracy with the right hand. He's so underrated. And I'm like, look,
that's
these guys
against
are standing
bonds.
in front of him with their hands down, and they're willingly getting shot or getting hit with the right hand. When a guy doesn't do that, he doesn't win. It is what it is.
Like, come on. First of all, like in every single boxing gym, like okay, the first time you enter the box, in fact, in every single boxing, MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, anything that works with striking, anything, any sport, any combat sports that works with punches, what is the first thing they teach? Like when you enter any gym, that revolves punching. What is the first? What is the first technique they'll always teach a fighter? It's simple, a jab. How do you not
Exactly.
like?
That's the when you enter a boxing gym, what the coach will say to you typically, they'll take you into the ring. They'll ask you to get into your boxing stance, right? They'll show you a proper stance, where to put your feet, how to move forward, how to move backwards, tell you to keep your hands up at your chin, keep your elbows tucked, and they'll show you how to throw a jab from that stance. That is the first thing you will ever learn in any half decent boxing gym. Deontay Wilder has
Exactly.
been a professional boxer for well over a decade. He was
And
an Olympian in the amateurs, and he can't throw a jab. That shows you everything you need to know about American boxing. Is what it is.
like number one, that's what they teach you. Okay, in certain, it depends on which gym, because there are certain gyms that will tell you this. They'll ask you which which one, which hand is your powerful, which is the strongest hand. If your strongest hand is some like which one is your strongest hand? My strongest hand is a left. Okay, if you're lefty, you're a southpaw, and they'll give you a stance. Like, you see,
Exactly, and these are the fundamentals, you know? By the way, hold
they,
down the fort for a second. I need to go take a pee. I'll be back in a sec, yeah?
no problem.
Alright, what did I miss?
Nothing,
Yeah,
nothing,
shout out
nothing,
to Dad.
nothing.
God bless you, bro. Every time. What were we saying,
Yeah,
sorry?
as I was saying, right? How do you Deontay Wilder? We were by Deontay Wilder. How the fuck do you not like? You are boxing your whole life and you can't fucking throw a damn jab.
I know.
Fucking
It's embarrassing because look, I've had this in my on my mind for years in regards to Deontay Wilder. Watching his fights and being a hardcore long-term boxing fan, it's embarrassing, and it's embarrassing to see channels that have, like, thousands and thousands of subscribers, people following them, and they're talking about this guy saying he's a legend, he's the greatest punching heavyweight of all time, he's better than Mike Tyson, better than the Klitschko's, and I'm like, the guy literally doesn't know how to throw a punch. His fundamentals are so bad that any half decent heavyweight who could get inside and throw some uppercuts to his chin knock him out. But these guys he was fighting weren't doing it because they were handpicked opponents and they were brought in. They knew their role. They knew their role was to lose. And trying to explain this to people and having them call me a hater and a conspiracy theorist, it honestly is disheartening. So I don't know, man. Like him getting completely schooled by a guy like Joseph Parker, who, according to these guys, he should be knocking out in the first round. That's how great he is. Losing to Joseph Parker, and not only losing to him, like it would be one thing if Parker just landed a big shot and knocked him out. We could say, yeah, Wilder was shot, he was chinny, whatever, right? But the fact that Joseph Parker schooled, dominated, and embarrassed him and won every single round, actually dominated and schooled him to the point where he looked like an amateur who'd never boxed before. That's what's vindicating, as far as I'm concerned. It vindicates what I've been saying for years about Deontay Wilder, and that is that he's a fraud. And I don't want anybody. I don't want to hear anybody talk about him being this great heavyweight and being underrated. I never want to hear it again. I'm not
Mm,
tolerating it anymore. It is what it
yeah.
is.
And you were also right about Demetrius Andre as well, another Amero bomb.
Yeah, exactly. That guy. Look. Demetrius Andrade. To me, he sums up everything that's wrong with boxing nowadays. He's just a grifter. He's a guy who we were talking about Dimitri Bivol being boring. Demetrius Andrade, he takes that to a whole new level. Like he was a guy who he was literally he was calling himself the boogeyman, talking about how no one wanted to fight him, this, that, and the other, and he couldn't get any fights. Right? He was trying to tug at our heartstrings and say, "Oh, his career's being messed with because no one wants to fight him." Blah blah blah. He was literally turning down mandatory opponents, right? I mean, he ducked Zach Parker, which was a massive
Hmm.
fight for him, massive opportunity that he completely ran from. He ducked Janibek, who was
Then
an up and coming prospect, who would have been a great win if he could get that win. But while he was claiming he was being ducked, he was ducking every single tough contest, and he was fighting
he
guys like Jason Quigley and Liam Williams, literal domestic level fighters. Like that was
and
just an
also
embarrassment to me.
and the most embarrassing part about this situation, all these I know I'm a black guy myself, I'm black, but
Mm.
all these black supremacist boxing channels that don't know shit about boxing, right? Go out there and claim to say that Demetrius, hey everybody, Demetrius Andre would have beaten Prime Triple G and Canelo. Number one, let me tell you this. Triple G would have broken Demetrius Andre in less than 30 seconds. Is like come on. Come
Exactly.
on.
Look, I don't know how anybody could look at Demetrius Andrade and see him struggling against the likes of Liam Williams. I mean, look, can we all agree Liam Williams is at best, and I'm being generous here. He's at best a British level fighter. He's not a world class fighter. He should never have been fighting for a world title. The guy struggled. He went life and death with Liam Smith and Eubank Jr. Right, so if Andrade is struggling against him, against that level of opponent, a prime Triple G literally makes him cry and makes him quit early. Let's be honest about it.
Exactly. And worst of all, right? People say that Triple G ducked him and Canelo ducked him. First of all, the guy's fucking 35 years old. He's been boxing for almost he's been boxing for nearly 15 years, right? Almost 16 years. And once he got a step, it took him 15 years to get a step up in competition. Like if Demetrius Andre, right, was that good of a fighter, why didn't he fight Canelo, or why didn't he fight Triple G or Canelo back when they were still in there? Why didn't he fight these guys back in 2014, 2015, there, around there? Because at the at the age of maybe 25 or 26 at least, you should be ready to fight elite level opposition.
Exactly.
Am I
Like
right or not?
do you know what's funny about that though? You mentioned like how long Andrade's been around, and it's true because he was a champion at 154 for a time while he was in his late 20s. He was fighting the same level of competition in his mid 30s that he was fighting in his 20s. At like he was literally fighting this around about the same level of competition. He never at any stage of his career stepped up in class. He never made any or any effort whatsoever when he was at 154 to unify or to get in the ring with the likes of Lara and Charlo and guys like that. He made no attempt to establish himself in that division. It was like he was happy knowing where his bread was buttered, just defending his title against the likes of Ryan Rhodes, domestic level opponents. And he did the exact same thing when he moved up to middleweight. He spent his entire career at championship level fighting easy title defenses. And I mean, what got me about Andrade, and I mentioned this in the video, he didn't seem to have a big following because his fights wouldn't sell. He wasn't a ticket seller, he wasn't a big draw or anything like that. But somehow he had scores of fans on the internet who would like defend him to the death and talk about how great he was and how everybody's ducking him. And it just, I could never, it boggled my mind. I was like, where are all these guys coming from? Like, the internet is just full of Demetrius Andrade fans, but the guy has no fans who are willing to pay to see his fight. So it's just, I don't know, man. It was a funny situation, and him getting exposed. It just, again, it's another. That's another. I think you alluded to this before. It's another one of them situations where you feel vindicated because you're like, it was a long time coming. Kind of like it was for Wilder. That's how I
And
see it.
same thing's gonna happen with Tank.
Exactly.
The the same thing is gonna happen with Tank. Because number one, Tank, I won't lie, he's a fun fighter, but let's be dead as honest. He's also been fighting mediocre bums as well. And people also overhype his opponents, like Andy Cruz. Andy Cruz, no, 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 who's this? Yeah, his surname is not Andy Cruz, man. Isaac Cruz, like Isaac Cruz. I mean, Isaac Cruz is also a bum.
I know, but he made Tank look like a bum and all, didn't he?
Exactly, exactly. But let's be honest, Isaac Cruz is not a talented fighter. He's not that good. None of them. Even same thing goes for Rolly Romero. Rolly Romero is not that good either.
He's
And
an absolute bum.
speaking, how the hell did he even become even world champion? It still boggles my
Well, he
damn
got a
mind.
gift stoppage against Barroso, who was beating him. That was how he
Hmm.
became a world champion. So it was
I
it was
mean,
just corruption, pure corruption.
he's that bad. Like he's that bad that even I could beat him. I'm not
Like,
even
like
joking.
that
I
goes
could
to
even
show you, to me, that shows you what a state boxing is, particularly in America, because you don't have to do anything substantial to become a world champion. You just need to have the right promoter, have the referee on the take, and you could be losing a fight. You have any success at all, they'll stop the fight and announce you the knockout winner. Like that. That's literally how certain guys become world champion, and that just sums up. It sums up Raleigh's resume entirely. Like the guy's completely lost. He's completely been exposed at the highest level, and they basically went out their way to ensure he got a title. Like the establishment just handed him a title without him having to do anything to earn it. Basically, legitimately.
nah, nah, nah. And and also another thing about corruption, like, yeah, and I blame Floyd Mayweather for this type of situation. That's why there's too many divas around. Everybody's making, everybody will yap, 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 yap. Black fighters, black fighters back in the old days, like Roy Jones Jr., like like the black fighters back in the old days, like Sugar, like Hearns and those guys, right? These guys were not divas. They were not divas. They were willing to fight because they wanted to fight. They were not
Exactly. It
scared
was
of nobody.
it was a different time. Like fighters back then in general were just more ambitious. Nowadays they get paid so much money for doing practically nothing that there's no incentive for these guys to actually take tough challenges. These guys know they can make $1 million fighting once a year against a bum. Just to quickly answer CBB's question. Personally, I don't think so. I think if Bivol and Beterbiev was going to happen, I think it would have happened already because there's no reason for it not to happen. It's an easy fight to make. I don't think Bivol wants the fight. I don't think the promoters involved want the fight. And if it does happen, I think Beterbiev will need to show significant signs of decline. If he gets dropped and looks poor against Callum Smith, then maybe. But if he goes in there and sets about Callum Smith and stops him early, I don't think that Bivol will take that fight. So no, I don't think it will happen anytime soon.
I, I think it will happen. Another reason why is the WBC as well, because
Mhm.
politics. After what they did with after what Dimitri Bivol did to Canelo, I think that was another reason why. I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know nothing. That is just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know for certain. Something tells me it won't happen next year. Because I mean, again, like I see no reason why that fight can't have happened already. Dimitri Bivol has done nothing this year before fighting Lyndon Arthur. Why was why was there no campaign from him to try and get the undisputed fight from Beterbiev? Why has that fight not been in negotiation? Like, why have we heard nothing in the media
It's
about
only
them
now.
getting together and discussing a fight? I don't
It's
understand it.
only it's
Should have
only
happened
now.
already.
It's only now because the Saudis are interested.
Yeah, if the Saudis put up the money for it, then it could definitely happen. But if that doesn't happen, I can't see it, you know?
But let's be honest. If the fight does happen, do you think it's gonna sell?
I
No.
don't think it will, no. Neither one of them is a big name, so no, I don't think it will sell.
That's what I say. Unless it was in Russia. Unfortunately, there's a war happening. If
Yeah,
it
that'll
was in
never happen
Russia,
in Russia. Like, there'll be no big
mhm,
fights in Russia for the foreseeable future, sadly, you know?
well, I'm just saying, if there was no wars, maybe it would have happened in Russia.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah,
that, that
it could have
would that
happened because both guys have fought in Russia, so they could have had it there. I mean, I suppose there's a chance they could have the fight in Canada because I know Beterbiev does sell tickets there, but he's not like a massive draw there, but he does sell tickets. Bivol doesn't sell
yeah.
tickets anywhere, you know?
hmm unless it's in UK, unless it's in Saudi or or like unless it's like yeah, I think in Saudi he might maybe do decent numbers,
Mm.
maybe, but that's the only place where be it Dimitri Bivol and what's a better beef might sell. That's the only country I know that might sell.
Yeah, and that's not because it's like that there's a demand for it there. It's just because the Saudis would be willing to put up the money to promote it because they've got money to waste basically. But it wouldn't sell on its own merit, like because like I said, neither one of them is a big draw. You know, again, Beterbiev might sell some tickets in Canada, but he's not a big like pay-per-view draw or anything like that. And
Mm-mm.
as I mentioned earlier in the stream, Bevo's still fighting on undercards of heavyweight bum fights. So it will never be a big fight if it happens, and the only reason it would happen, it wouldn't happen for the sake of it generating money. It would happen for the sake of it just being a legacy fight, you know, an undisputed fight,
Yeah, and the
and I
only
don't think
way
it will, to be honest.
and let's be honest, and the only way that fight could actually sell is if they actually put a very good undercard. You know,
Yeah, it would have
put
to
a
be a good
couple of
undercard to sell it.
yes, they have to put a couple of young prospects like um they have to put like big baby who's this Anderson like they have to put someone like Anderson or who's this Keyshawn Davis or like one of these up and comers, Andy Cruz, those type of guys.
Yeah, they could
You
put
understand what I'm
Makhmudov on the undercard, have him have a comeback, you know?
exactly, exactly. They could put a couple of guys, in my opinion. And Zan, have you heard about this kid named Xander Ziyech?
Yeah, Xander Zayas, yeah, he's Minimax's friend. Yeah,
Mm,
he's good, he's
mm,
talented.
very, 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 very talented. I see. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be something special in the future. I think you could actually win a world title, especially at 154. Like 154 is a weak ass division right now. It's weak, so I think you could win a title right there.
Yeah, yeah, it's very weak right now, I think.
Mm. I think you could like if you could get a mandatory. I don't think he beats someone like Tim Zoo. I don't think he's ready for Tim Zoo yet.
No.
I don't
No,
I
Tim
don't
Tszyu's a
think
lot more experienced. He's a much higher level right now, you know?
that's why I don't that's why I said he's only like 20. I don't think he'll fight someone like Tim Zoo. Maybe he'll fight someone like Fundora, another bomb.
Yeah.
I think he might fight Fundora or Tony Harrison, another bomb.
Yeah, Tony Harrison's pretty shot. I think that's a safe fight at this stage, you know?
Mm. It's actually a good step up fight for him. And you have Virgil Ortiz also, another one coming up.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, Virgil Ortiz, but I think he's been, inactive due to health problems, you know?
But hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, hopefully. And I
Hopefully.
do think he should move up in weight, though.
Yeah, yeah. in
because
weight
he was
cutting.
training himself to stay at welterweight, and I think that damaged him.
Mm, I think he should. I think he's gonna move up to 160.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I think
I,
w- I think it's a perfect move to go to 160 because 160 is also another division that is dead. It's
yeah, it's
been
a
dead since it's been dead since like on the other like you have fucking Charlo who's been holding these belts hostage for years.
yeah. Yeah,
Hmm?
you got Janibek as well, who yeah, he's good, but he's not that good, you know.
He's good in my opinion. He's okay. He's solid.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'll
he's all right.
say he's all right. I'll give him maybe if I can give him an overall ranking, I'll give him a 7.5. You understand? He's a
Mhm.
B plus fighter,
Yeah,
A
definitely.
minus until like for example, like right now, I think he would knock out like right now, Carlos Adames. I think he'll beat Adames. Definitely he beats Eubanks. Definitely he beats Lara, and I think he destroys Charlo because Charlo does not seem motivated to me.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
you saw that when he fought Jose Benavides. I mean,
a former
Joseph
welterweight.
Benavides, a welterweight. How the hell do you not put him out? How the hell did like any like
He's
how the
done, in my
hell
opinion. Charlo's done, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think that performance after so long out tells you the level he's at now. He's just a grifter at this point, just looking to cash out. You know.
the bum? He's also another overhyped Romero bum. His best win was also against a shot to pieces Devinchenko. Imagine what he did. Imagine what would have happened if he fought prime Devinchenko.
I think he gets knocked out by like the Derevyanchenko that fought Golovkin knocks him out, as far as I'm concerned. Probably late on, you know.
Exactly, exactly. But Devinchenko is now shot to pieces, and also another
Yeah,
like ooh, and yeah, let's and there's an interesting fight: Junto Nakatani versus Santiago.
Santiago. Yeah, that's an interesting fight.
Hmm?
He beat Donaire pretty convincingly, so that is an interesting fight. I know Donaire's
Yeah,
shot, but it's still a good win, you know.
yeah, I know. But this was not the same Donaire that fought Inoue. If it was that Donaire that fought Inoue, he would have walked through Alexandria.
Yeah,
I think Junto Nakatani would actually walk through this dude,
yeah.
even though Junto Nak
I favour Nakatani for that win. I definitely do. I think it'll be
and
tough though. I think he's a durable opponent who throws a lot of shots, and I think he'll get
yeah,
inside and get in trouble. But I think Nakatani is, you know, he's a lot more fit and ready at this stage than Donaire was, you know, and I think he'll win.
mm, and not only that, he's also much bigger.
Yeah,
Not
he is.
only that, in also he is going to be the bigger guy, even though he is moving up. He is going to be the bigger guy. I think his size will overpower him.
Yeah, I
Like
think that's the most likely outcome, you know.
mm, and he's we and like what would have happened if he fought Bam Rodriguez? In my opinion, I think he would have destroyed Bam.
I don't know about that. That's
It's an
the size
interesting
again.
one.
The size might have been a big factor in that one, you know.
Yeah, that's what I say. If Junto Nakatani, let's say if he was like maybe 5 foot, if he was like 5'4", 5'5", 5'6", I would favor Bam. But the fact
Mhm.
that Junto is like a 5'8", 5'9", fuck,
Yeah,
he's huge. How the
yeah.
hell? How did he make 112? Only God knows.
He must be starving himself and on all sorts of flipping diuretics. You know, he must have been
No, I'm
to make
like
that one.
nah. I like you're 5'8", like nah,
I
nah,
know,
nah,
too much, innit?
mm-mm, nah.
Anyway, I'm gonna call this one because I've somewhere I've got to be right now. So yeah,
Hey,
thanks for stopping by, man. I've enjoyed it, man. It's been good.
it's been good, man. It's been good. Hey, Merry Christmas in South Africa. It's a Merry
Same
Christmas.
same to you, man. Merry Christmas to you, your family, all the best, man. God bless you. And
God bless you
thanks
too.
thanks for jumping on, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Any day. The first
Awesome,
one,
man.
okay. Enjoy.
Yeah, you too, man. Merry Christmas. And
Merry
God bless
Christmas.
everybody in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. And yeah, hope you all have a good Christmas, you and your families. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And yeah, God bless each and every one of you. Stay vigilant.